All right, looks like we are live. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart. I am joined by my good friend Brandon, and tonight we're going to be talking about a number of Nintendo things as we do every week. The focus this time around is going to be on the Splatoon 3 Direct that was announced for this Wednesday. It's going to be happening, I believe, 6 a.m. Pacific Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll also be talking about the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Wave 2 DLC. We're going to be talking a little bit more about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because we're a little bit more progressed in the game. We're not going to do the spoilers yet, but we'll probably just kind of expand upon our thoughts a little bit tonight. And we're also going to talk a little bit about that Pokemon news as well. And that's kind of the general plan. I was actually thinking about making tonight's discussion more of a Zelda-focused discussion because I felt like we hadn't had a good quality Zelda discussion in a while. But then they announced the Splatoon 3 Direct, and I was like, well, if we're already talking about Mario Kart, if we're already talking about Pokemon, if we're already talking about Xenoblade, probably some more, and now we got to talk about Splatoon, I probably could save the Zelda topic for another day. Because there are weeks where there isn't a lot of Nintendo news, and right now there's plenty of Nintendo news, so we might as well talk about the Nintendo news when we have the Nintendo news, right?
Might as well.
So yeah, of course, that said, if you guys bring up something Zelda related in the chat, that doesn't mean I will not talk about it. I will talk about it. But I'm just saying I don't have a planned dedicated topic for Zelda tonight, but I was thinking about it earlier until the Splatoon 3 Direct took storm. So yeah, that's happening this week. That's the general plan. Not expecting a lot of people to watch tonight, but you know, guys, come in, leave a like, share your comments, thoughts, share the stream. That's all super appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, if you like to watch Nintendo content, because we do that here. And that's the general plan for the evening. But while we do wait for some people to flow in, Brandon, how you been? What's good? What's new?
I've been good. Yeah, I went to my parents' house because not yesterday, but last Sunday was my birthday, and so I went Saturday, this last weekend, to my parents' house to celebrate that. That was fun. And then I've just been kind of chilling today. I was gonna play Xenoblade, but I didn't get to, unfortunately, today. But I have been playing it throughout the week, so
yeah.
I am probably twice as far into the game as I was last time I played. But you were definitely farther than me.
I think I passed, yeah, because like Brandon and I, like we DM each other sometimes, especially now because we're playing Xenoblade together. And throughout the week, we've like been giving each other updates and stuff. Like I was like, "Hey, Brandon, have you found the Orion ruins yet?" And he's like, "We got confused on what we were even like communicating on." But I was like sending him pictures, like, "Look, the Orion ruins are in Xenoblade 3 from 2. They are here. They exist." And he's like, "Yeah, that's cool. But weren't you talking about this place?" And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe." And actually, to that point, without spoiling anything, by the way, Orion Ruins is not really a spoiler. The Orion Titan is on the cover art of the game, so
it's like the first thing you see in the in the beginning cutscene is the Orion Titan.
Yeah, so that is not a spoiler. I will say though, after I went past a certain the cave area, I don't know if you've even gone to that part yet, but there was a cave area where I found some ruins. After that part, there's like a oasis or waterfall area, and there's some cool stuff that happens there. I don't want to get into specifics for spoiler reasons, but I did notice more environments that are like, oh, that's another Titan. I found another Titan that was like fossilized mountain. Which is pretty cool. And then just beyond that, I saw what appeared to be, man, how do I say that? Like, it's one of those things where I'm trying to like tippy-toe around what's spoiler, what's not spoiler.
Spoil it, but you're trying to give just enough information.
What's fair? If Nintendo's showing it, it's fair to talk about it, right? So
yeah.
There are a few pieces of imagery that Nintendo did show before the game came out that showed buildings that were like overgrown and aged. I have found one. Just beyond the fossilized Titan, I found like an actual, what appeared to be almost like a skyscraper maybe not a skyscraper per se, but like a tall building with like glass panel windows, and it was like obviously old and ruined. With I saw it in the distance, or maybe I'm on drugs. I'm not on drugs, but that's what I saw, and that was just kind of pretty cool. Just like sort of playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I'm exploring more. I've done a lot of backtracking, actually, more than when we discussed beforehand. I went back
I've been mainly trying to get like everything I can in my first run, unless it's just way over leveled.
Yeah.
But I've been really taking it slow and exploring almost everything I can. But I do like to backtrack as well, eventually.
So, it's kind of interesting, right now it feels like the map is like a giant circle. There is something in the middle. I don't know what that is yet, and I imagine there's definitely a lot of reason to backtrack. Like the game isn't open world per se, in the sense that it's not one giant continuous map. It's actually a few different large maps. But what's interesting though is that I feel like, and you know, if we go back to some of our earlier Xenoblade discussions, it's basically what I thought it was going to be, right? Like when we saw the initial, before they put out like that website posting that said open world technically, what Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I still thought it was probably going to be this anyway, but I entertained the open world thought because, well, one, there's evidence to it. And in a sense, it is open world, but it's more like smaller open worlds, if that makes sense. It's not so much...
more like one's level design, which is kind of what I thought it would be.
Open... what did you say? Open level design?
Yeah, just like... I'd like to describe it as wide linear. It's like you're still kind of going to each area in a very linear fashion. Like, you can't get to the final area at any time. You have to get to it last, right? But these areas are huge. You can explore them wherever. You can go wherever you want and explore at any time in those areas. It's just you have to get to them in a linear fashion. So it's like wide areas that you travel through linearly.
There's a lot of areas that you can just skip. There's entire biomes that you can
where
just skip.
I am right now, I'm going and exploring this like white sandy area.
I explored that yesterday.
Off to the left, yeah.
Did you find
you don't need to go there at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if there'll be some story element that appears there later, but like if you look at all the monsters there, it's clearly like leveled to around when you pass through that area, but it's entirely optional.
Yeah, it's only a little. They're only a little bit above.
There's some cool things there.
Other creatures, yeah.
Like one, you get to actually get a good look of what the middle of the world map is when you go to that area. But also, if you pay attention, there are areas beyond the middle of the map, which I will not specify what it is. It's not really even that crazy of a spoiler, but I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to be careful. You can see structures beyond the clouds. Like I saw what appeared to be like a castle. Can't confirm if it's a castle, but it looked like a giant castle.
Supposed to be. I mean, they reference this castle all the time, don't they? Where they get supplies from.
I mean, you gotta imagine that there's at least... I mean, based off the lore of the game that they've told us, there's gotta be 2 to 3 cities. Like, not counting the colonies, which I actually... I've seen some people criticize the colonies and say they don't feel quite like towns. I actually like them more than a lot of towns we've seen in previous Xenoblade games. They feel actually more interactive to me. Like, okay, example. Uriah, right? In Uriah, the Whale Titan, there is a giant city in the back of the Titan, and it looks amazing. And when you finally get there, it's cool. There are people to talk to. There are side quests. But I feel when you compare them to the colonies, there is a greater level of interaction you have with the colonies than you do with the capital of Uriah.
I like this feature they introduced in Torna, where you like talking to specific people gives you points
Yeah.
with the colonies, which
Yes.
is just makes you actually want to go and like talk to everybody. It's
Exactly.
such a good idea.
Exactly. That is it's a really good point, Brandon. And that may have something to do with it. Like before, there were people, and I didn't really feel like talking to them. But if I know that I kind of get like a point for talking to them, like, oh, free point. Oh, free point. Oh, free point.
Yeah.
And I kind of like doing that, and you see like your what's it called? Like every colony or like town or city has like a ranking system. It was like this
Right.
in Xenoblade 2 as well. I think Xenoblade 1 had something to that effect.
1 to 5 stars.
Yeah. For Xenoblade
your
1, there was just like this
affinity.
one city that it was like that. But 2 had it for every single one, but it was more subtle. Remember how in Xenoblade 1 there's that one colony that you help to sort of build back up? But it's entirely
but you
optional.
get affinity with all the colonies in 1, I thought. Because I think it works the same way as in 3, where you get better shops and stuff in 1.
Maybe
so you
or
increase
maybe
the affinity.
You could be right. I know there was an affinity chart across characters for Xenoblade 1, which there is
Yeah.
also for 3. There's a whole bunch of
There
crazy
is. I'm
stuff.
pretty sure 3's affinity works pretty similar to the first games.
Anyway, even if they're exactly the same, which I know there's definitely some subtle differences.
Yeah, some differences.
There's one clear difference that makes a big difference, and it's what Brandon just said. When you speak to somebody, you literally see a meter go up, right? So it's a nice little visual, and you see the difference you're making towards building up, I guess, your affinity with the colony. And it does have direct effects to, like, maybe have more options when you go to shops, or it does open up more things you can get or advantages in the game. It may unlock some additional side quests as well.
I think so.
Yeah. And actually, on that note of side quests, I have to also say, I feel like the side quests in this game are stronger than the previous games. And maybe it's just because in fairness, I haven't 100%ed any of the side quests in any Xenoblade game. I do the main course. If there's some things I might try and go the extra mile for, like for example, in Future Connected, I made sure to get every Nopon, but that wasn't like that hard.
Yeah.
But like in this game, I'm definitely gonna at least get all the heroes, and not all the heroes are a lot of the heroes are optional. Like not everyone is mandatory for this. There's some are, but there's a lot that aren't, and they're actually like kind of really cool side quests that have their own cutscenes.
Right.
Some of them feel like main story quests, and there's an intriguing story there. There's more character development there. There are some cool interactions. You learn more about the world. And yeah, I mean, it's fun stuff. It's like basically just more Xenoblade. I mean, it's just literally what it is.
Yeah.
As basic as what I'm saying it sounds. It's like
I wouldn't say that
more
Xenoblade 3
main
has
Xenoblade.
better side quests. I think it just does side quests in a better way. Because Xenoblade 2 also had pretty much the exact same types of side quests with their Blade side quests, which had actual storylines and voice acting and cutscenes, and just like the Heroes Quest do. But
Were
you
you able
had
to
to
do the
all
one-
kinds of crap to get to those, and there's just so much fluff they cut out. And relegating like generic side quests to these Collectopedia cards instead, where you don't even really have to go to like talk to them as much anymore, is so nice. A lot of it's just like cleaned up the fluff of the side quests, but I wouldn't say that they have that many more like good side quests than 2 really did. But I didn't do most of 2's side quests.
Yeah, I
'cause
mean,
they were
I
mostly
think
garbage.
I think that is like it's hard for me to speak to. To your point, I think you're right in saying that it's not necessarily better. I want to say it's better because I'm enjoying it, but I also didn't do all the side quests in Xenoblade 2, so I
The
can't say
Blade
for a
quests
fact.
in 2 were actually incredible. They were really good.
Okay,
So
maybe I should try and go back and do a few. But the things I never found them. Like if you just play the main game, you don't see them. And it's not like I never did any exploring. I did exploring. I didn't see them. I would explore more of the overworld rather than the towns, though. And that might have something to do with it.
To unlock the Blade quests, you have to do certain conditions and bring out your blade during them to activate the quest.
So they
Some
may
of
just
them
be
were kind
harder
of
to find.
strange. Yeah, you have to you have to do certain things to get them to work, and you have to have your blades set up with certain skills field skills and different things at certain levels.
It just sounds kind of unnatural.
A whole lot of annoying things to set up, but once you set it up, they're really good.
And you know, Xenoblade 2 has good content in there, but I think
you
probably
have to fight for it.
you have to. That is so true. That is a huge theme of that game, fighting for the good content. I'm going to begin to chat in a little bit. There's a few good questions there, but what was I going to say? I think if there's one of the biggest differences between 2 and 3 is just that 3 makes everything more accessible, and it's done in a more natural, organic way. So, 1, it's more fun to explore the towns. 1, because the music is great, but also 2, like the way the affinity system works, it feels more fun to listen to these conversations. But then also, I think another element here is that because the game is better visually, you can see things more clearly within a town. I think there is a little bit of that subtle difference as well. But also, everything's sort of related to the story, right? Like there is like these 2 warring factions, and that plays a vital role to the story. And there are important characters that are important during certain chapters, but they won't be that important, at least for the most part, beyond that, unless you go to those towns, interact with them, and they have side quests that go beyond that, right? So it's kind of almost like every time you explore an area, you find the colony in that area, there's a big sort of like a couple big plot beats for the main story of that chapter, but it's basically just kind of opens up a whole other story chain you can do per area. If you backtrack, talk to some characters, you meet up with, say, the commander or something of every area, and that leads to like a big hero quest or just a couple really fun side quests, or a combination of that usually. And it's cool. It's actually it's handled in a way better than 2 at least, and I'm actually finding myself doing a lot more side quests than I did with previous Xenoblade games, and enjoying it more. So I think it's a huge point in its favor. But let's put a pin on this, because I mean we could probably go for a while. But I want to check in with the chat real quick, say hello to everyone, and just get to a few questions, and then we'll move on to the topics here. So hello there, Purple Lilac. Hello there, Zesty Car. Having Hope. How are you? Paul Dunn. Hello, guy you don't know. Hello there. Game Walkthroughs. Good evening. So Game Walkthroughs asks, what year do you think MM3 will come out? So I'm trying to figure out what MM3 is.
MM3.
Is it Nintendo related? It's not. Okay, well, it's something where there's already 2 of them, right? Majora's Mask 2 does not exist.
Majora's Mask 3.
Majora's Mask 3. Mario, not Mario Rabbids, not Mario Kart. I don't know. It may come to me, but I'm not sure what MM3 would be referring to. Is anything coming to mind, Brandon?
No, I am trying so hard to think of anything other than Majora's Mask.
Right, and there's not a 2 for Majora's Mask, so I'm not sure. There's Mario Maker. Thank you, Paint Fat Purple.
Mario Maker.
Okay. Yeah. My estimation for that is it would have to be new hardware, and I don't mean like a mid-gen. I mean like a whole other new generation. And even then, if depending on the transition between Switch and Switch 2, a lot of games on Switch may still function as sort of like that dedicated game for even the next system. Like say the Switch is forwards and backwards compatible with Switch 2, like it goes both ways, and like basically use the same cartridges, and games just look and run better on Switch 2. Like literally, you buy a Switch game, it's still a Switch game. You just plug it into the more powerful Switch, and it looks and runs better. Like, imagine if they did things like that, which hasn't really been done exactly before. Not exactly, not for like a old generation to a whole on new generation. But if they did do that, we'd be in a situation where
Basically how
maybe
it
Mario
works
Maker doesn't
now.
even get a sequel or another sequel. But probably I'll say Mario Maker 3, the best bet is probably the next Switch 2. So
Yeah,
we're probably
I'd
half a
imagine
decade out.
they'll come up with some way of doing like, I don't know, they would have to do something big, some kind of like new big crazy change, because I don't think they're just gonna do like the same
Unless it's like a 3D Mario
kind of
Maker.
thing. Like 3D Mario Maker, yeah, but I was trying to think of something they can do with like, I feel like if they just had a galaxy mode where they added like all kinds of crazy galaxy things, would be amazing. But I think they need something bigger other than that.
3D Land.
I'm not sure what it'd be.
Like a 3D Land Maker.
That would be really cool if they had like a 3D one though, yeah.
Yeah. But 3D Land, 3D World, they're more of a cookie cutter, simpler style. So that's like that's easier for me to envision than say like a
3D
Mario
World
Odyssey
would
style
be
game.
much more possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can add like galaxy elements in there too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean they could add different aesthetics, absolutely. And different power-ups too, like
I want the gravity stuff.
Yeah.
I think just even in the 2D style, like having like a Mario Galaxy theme, where you have like gravity mechanics but in a 2D space, I think that'd be kind of wild.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? If I were to give you a year game walkthroughs,
2027.
I think it comes out after a new 2D Mario. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see the next generation of Switch come out next year, maybe towards the end of the year, which was the initial prediction a while ago. Then
Honestly,
2027 is not that bad.
Is not that bad. But yeah, I would just kind of spit that out, and then I was thinking about like, that actually kind of makes sense. 2026, 2027, I could see that.
Yeah, I was thinking about. I was debating 2026. This is one of those things where like this like estimation doesn't even matter because the odds of someone going back to this specific stream to this specific moment and like, hey, you said 2026, you monster! It came out 2027. How dare you?
And we have barely any precedent for when these release as well, so we're just pretty much spitballing.
We are pretty much just spitballing. I mean, for all we know, Nintendo next week will announce Mario Maker 3 for December. Like, they could. They really could. It would be confusing, but we've seen stranger things happen.
I've seen Stranger Things. Good show.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna go with 2026 just to be a little bit of a contrarian. So nice. We'll see. But yeah, I think we're both in sort of agreement that it would be the next generation. So at least a few years from now. All right, this is a good question. Guy you don't know added me and asked, how important is non-linear progression in a video game to you? And, I think sometimes, especially, I mean, me just thinking on myself, I think maybe sometimes when I talk about certain topics, I might portray things in a way where I think I may present it as in a way where one is better than the other, or I prefer one over the other. In truth, it's circumstantial. So, in the case of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I've actually been thinking, and this may end up being a video, the linear progression of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 actually makes it better. And I think actually what's interesting here is, in addition to that, the fact that they have a linear world, or what'd you say, wide linear? I kind of like that
wide
phrase.
Linear, yeah.
Wide linear. That I really like that.
I didn't come up with that. John Linneman of the Digital Foundry came up with that. Just to put that out there.
All right, but I still like it. I like that terminology, wide linear. You can kind of get like that open world experience, but it's basically just like a bigger linear experience. And I think that works for for something like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is a very
story-driven game.
Exactly, a very heavy story-driven game. I'm not saying you couldn't find a way to make it work for a full-on open-world game. Maybe they'll do that for Breath of the Wild too, and make it work well.
It makes more sense, like, in-world, that you're not just, like... Because, like, the story itself, I feel like for this kind of thing... Like, imagine playing Xenoblade 1, but you could go to, say, the Fallen Hand at any time. Like, that would just completely ruin the story they're trying to tell and everything they're trying to go for, and just the pacing of the game, and just everything about 1 is set up in a way where you need to go to specific areas, specific times, or it just does not work. And that's cool. That's a great way of doing it. But there's other games like Breath of the Wild where the story is not told that way and it's not as important. But it has this great, completely non-linear level design that is just fantastic, or world design, I should say. That is just amazing. So it's kind of like, depends on what you're trying to do with your game.
Yeah, and in the case of like Breath of the Wild, it's basically almost like you kind of create your own story. Which is kind of what they're sort of going for with Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, and we'll be talking about that more tonight. Yeah. But when you take a look at Xenoblade Chronicles 3, kind of going back to the like opening little conversation Brandon and I have had, the world is very nice because it's beautiful, it's massive, there's lots of areas you can explore. At first glance, it appears open world, and depending on your definition of open world, within each region, it is open world. Like, they're huge. Like, it's almost like the maps in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 are, like, multiple Titans from Xenoblade 2 in 1, for example.
Yeah.
Or in comparison to 1, which had fairly large sections, like areas, like, take multiples of those and put it into one big open area. But it's kind of what they do. It's like you have a big open area that the game does stop you from going to certain locations, either because you haven't unlocked a certain like platforming ability yet, or the game just like, hey, it's literally an invisible wall, and they say, hey, probably shouldn't go here right now. Like, they do stuff like that to kind of block you off from going to certain parts of the world. But the regions are huge, with multiple sort of like biomes or sections within them, and it's almost like if you've played Legends Arceus, even though it's not open world and at first we thought it might be, it's like 5 big large sections. It's kind of like that, except you can walk from between one section and another. There's just a loading screen in between them, and they're very, like in 3 they're far larger than what Arceus is, and Arceus maps aren't even that small. They're actually pretty big. 3s are even bigger. And there's a lot of secrets and things to find, but
you very rarely need to load into another area.
It's very rare. It's literally per region, but each region has like massive sections in between. It's like a combination of Titans or massive areas from previous Xenoblade games. So they're kind of like mini open worlds to me. But there's still things that are blocked off depending on the story, but it's done in a way that makes sense. Like either you just can't climb there yet because you haven't unlocked the climbing ability yet, or
most of the time you can't go places because the enemies are just gonna rock your world.
Well, that's another element, right? So, but that's something that can, in theory, be navigated. So,
you couldn't stay and grind up to a certain level. If you wanted to, I guess.
There may be a way to sort of like skip a story event, but that's kind of that's talking about trying to break the game, and I haven't heard anything of that sort yet. So it hasn't really been a known issue for Xenoblade games. Not saying it doesn't exist, I'm just saying it hasn't really been like a big known issue. Anyway, kind of going back to the question though, like, let me reread the question. How important is non-linear progression in a video game? It depends. It's circumstantial. So like in the case of Breath of the Wild, the whole point was for it to be non-linear. That's awesome. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it's going to be an attempt to be a non-linear game. And it's kind of about creating your own adventure, your own story. Apparently there's like 3 different like main things to do. One of them is a gym leader challenge. They haven't revealed the other 2 yet, which I'm very curious on. I'm very curious how that's going to be put together. I have some concerns about that, but again, we'll talk more about that later. But I guess it ultimately comes down to like, what's the vision for the game and how can it be done? Because I'll tell you that there is, in terms of adventure, I do like it when things are open, right? So like in going back to Xenoblade 3, you have this, what is it, wide linear. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds, where you can still have like a really strong narrative story, but also you can kind of get that sense of adventure and exploration you would get from an open world game. You can kind of do both. So I don't even know if you necessarily need non-linear per se. It's just kind of more of a, it depends.
I would say every game needs a balance, because even in the most non-linear games, you need some sort of linear progression of something. And even in games that are completely linear, you want to explore at least somewhat. Like even like the most linear games possible, like those kind of choose your own adventure movie kind of experience games. Even those games have exploration for you to do. There's areas where you don't have to go, but you can get secrets. Or games that are more like just action focused, like Halo or Uncharted. There's still places you can go to explore and go off the beaten path and find stuff. Any type of game you play is going to have a mixture of both linear and non-linear, and there's no game that's just purely one or the other.
Yeah. So it really just depends. So, you know, there you go. But Palco Salvador, Blade quests were cool. I only played a couple of them, but I'm really liking the Hero Quests in 3. I think they're really good. Having Hope 5. I didn't know the quests either. In Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there were so many quests. I was just eager to just finish the game. Yeah, in 2, I just wanted to get through the story because I was absorbed with the story. I just wanted to enjoy the story. I did enjoy exploring the overworld and just engaging with enemies because that was fun, but I didn't explore the towns too much.
I honestly hardly explored in 2 because I didn't find that there was that much to find when you did explore. And usually I'd find something and be like, well, don't have the field skill for this. Guess I will never do this because I don't feel like backtracking to find this one specific chest. It's going to have like nothing useful in it by the time I can unlock it.
I will tell, I kind of see your point with that. You almost are punished a little bit for exploring because you'll find something cool and be like, oh, I wonder what's beyond this. And you can't do anything sometimes. And then when you do, you go into the chest. You're like, okay, great. I mean, I'm sure there are some areas that have like a big like super boss or something, which would be cool. In 3, like sometimes there are super bosses. Sometimes there's a weird character. Like I found, but I don't know if you found this yet because I know you're also exploring the beach area. It's not really a beach, but it seems
looks like a beach.
It looks like a beach.
It's sand.
It's a desert. Well, at one time it was ocean, so there's some overlap there. But I found a cave. There may be a couple caves actually, but I found a particular cave that led to a puzzle.
Interesting.
Did you find this?
No.
You would know exactly what I'm talking about.
I had literally just started exploring that because I was trying to let my brother play, and then we got distracted by trying to like find some body on the cliffs to go do my flute thingy. And we couldn't figure out how to get up there. We went all the way around, and then we figured out we needed to go all the way back to where we had just been and go around the other way. And then we didn't have time for that. So I didn't actually get to explore the desert. I just like stepped right in the front and then left.
And just kind of thinking on that though, just kind of going back to the whole non-linear progression / like wide linear sort of discussion. There's a lot of open elements that we see in 3 that we actually sort of saw. There's a lot of concepts that we saw in Breath of the Wild that if they're being utilized in 3, because there are these fairly large areas that do open up, and there's cool little things that kind of like grab your attention. Like one of the big points about Breath of the Wild, the way it was designed, both structurally and aesthetically, it was designed in a way where you would see varying points of interest that would actually contrast with the world. Like there was the oranges and the blues that would contrast with the green, and you would find these different things, and you would go from one point, you would go somewhere like, oh, you explore what it is, discover, oh, that's cool. Oh, wait, there's something else here. Let's go over there. And you kind of keep doing them. Before you know it, you've went on this crazy, weird sort of like path, and you did not expect to do that beforehand, right? Like that's like ADHD to the maximum, and which is me, so it just works. But anyway, in 3, they do that to an extent, because to your point, Brandon, like they have like the husks of fallen soldiers that you want to send off. And you'll see them, you'll see the red glowing light, and you're like, oh, how do I get there? And you'll try and get there. But then also you have the conflicts where you can choose to engage or not and pick a side. You'll see that. That's another point of interest. Like the game literally offers you the option to like focus your attention on it too, because you can hear it off in the distance sometimes. But then also, you know, you may find a character, you may find a town. There's tons of enemies. Sometimes you may find a weird little cave. You know, try and explore those different things. So it shows you different things. The ether spots as well. Good point. And another thing they do is that they have supply drops. So randomly, you'll hear like a big sort of like rumbling and like almost like an explosion, but it's really just a giant thing that falls to the ground. And your characters will be like, oh, what was that? And then you look and you see like a red smoke, and it's kind of almost like a beacon. It's like not like a light beacon, but it's like something to that effect, which kind of, you know, reminds me of Breath of the Wild in the sense that there were sometimes where there were beacons or something in the sky sort of pointing in that direction, like for example the comets, and you would see like the golden light. So it's just sort of kind of continuing this sort of idea where you have this large open area with a variety of directions you could go, and you can go in that direction, or you might find something that will take you in a different direction, and the difference between, I would guess, between Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is that in 3 you have like a direction you need to go to progress the story, and you can't do everything in a particular area yet. Like you may need to unlock a certain platforming ability. You may need to have a higher level. Like you can, in theory, go to areas where there's larger levels, but you're probably gonna die. So you may not find everything, or the game will literally not allow you in certain areas. But that's more early on than anything else, I would say. I think once you get past some of the opening hours, you can backtrack and try and go beyond there. And then at that point, it's more just about monsters kicking your butt, or you not having the ability to climb a wall or vault something because you haven't unlocked that platforming ability yet. And that's how it kind of limits you. It's actually very Metroidvania-esque in that way, to an extent, in terms of having those platforming abilities. But it's still a large area. There are just certain limitations. But even though there are those limitations, it gives you that sense of openness, because it does open up over time, and you, similar to Breath of the Wild, you have this large area that has these varying points of interest. And it's interesting because Monolith Soft helps develop Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2. They work on the Zelda games alongside the Zelda team. They also help with Splatoon as well on top of that. Like Monolith Soft they're beasts. But a big thing that they do is focus on the world building. That's what they do. And I love exploration, which is one of the reasons why I love Xenoblade, because the world's always large, fantastical, beautiful areas to explore. So they do a great job of that.
I actually want to complain about something.
Complain?
With the
All right,
with the exploration. Something that really bugs me. Your jump is the worst, horrible jump I've ever tried to use in a game with relative amounts of platforming. Like, I'm trying to get up places, and you cannot get up except for, like, the exact part where you want to get up, because your jump is such shit that you can go, like, 2 inches off the ground, and that's about it. Like, I wish it was like X, where you had the high jump, and also, please let me run. These areas are big. Why am I so slow?
All right, so, one, I'm not sure I feel the same way about the jump. But what I will give you on that is that, for me, I just look at angles, right? And sometimes you just can't do it. You know, sometimes you just can't do it. But it would be nice if maybe there's a little bit of a ledge grab kind of thing, you know, or maybe like a little bit of that. And on your point to the sprinting, I do feel that. I wish I could sprint sometimes. Like, you do kind of run, but sometimes I wish I could kind of go a little faster. And if you look at how they handle Link in Skyward Sword, I don't need it to be like Breath of the Wild where you can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but if it, like Link in Skyward Sword where he had a sprint meter and he also would kind of scale up a wall just a little bit, he can grab onto a ledge, that would be nice. Now, keep in mind, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is not an adventure platformer, it's an RPG. So, you know,
it's just kind of annoying because I'm trying to jump up a bunch of ledges and stuff, and it's clear that I'm supposed to get here from this place, but no, I have to go like a couple feet to the left because I can't jump up here because my foot's 1 inch below the platform, so I'm just not getting up high enough. It's so annoying.
Sometimes positioning can be a little confusing, and you know, like just the main point here is that I guess the focus for Xenoblade Chronicles is not to be a platformer. But because adventure is such a huge part of the game, there is inevitably some platforming that can happen since they try to make the worlds pretty varied. I don't think the jump is a problem, but I kind of understand what you're saying. Like, it could be better.
It's not like a huge issue.
It could be better.
It's kind of annoying. I feel exploration would be more fluid and fun if I could jump a bit higher and not have to walk around so much to get up the ramp. I did have this thought. To go back up around.
I had this thought during the weekend. Like, there's a lot of big enemies that you can't like just hop on. But there's a lot of smaller enemies. And I kind of had a thought, like, what if they just threw in like a weird little mechanic where you could jump on an enemy's head and jump off, kind of like Mario. Like, what if you could just do that? And it did kind of get me thinking, like, what if they did add a few little platforming techniques? Like, they add the Mario like footstool jump, and they add like the Link sprint / sort of vault from Skyward Sword. And just little things like that would make the platforming in Xenoblade like a lot better. I don't even think it's bad, but it's not a platformer, right? It's an RPG. So, you know, there's different focuses there, but imagine if it had that, it would be kind of crazy. Like, you know, like imagine it's just you can't really expect the game to be all of those different things at once, right? Like, you can't expect, like, for example, the next Super Mario game to be a huge story-focused game with that's over 100 hours, a bit because of the story. Still have like 240 stars or something. Have multiplayer, have co-op, have online integrated with that. Have like an RPG system in place of that as well, and it's completely open world. Like all of those things, like, and it still feels like Mario. It still feels super polished. Everything flows. There's a rhythm to it. You know, you're this crazy parkour master. Like, that would be amazing, but you're asking for it to be literally every game in existence at once.
Right.
So, you gotta like, give up something.
Just increase the jump by like 25-50%, and then give me like a limited sprint that recharges. I'll be Gucci.
Yeah. I did have the thought though, Brandon, so even though you're insulting Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I'll take it.
Insulting. How dare I have a complaint against a perfect game?
Right. How dare you? Let's see here. Hello there, Joey CJ. Hello there, Charles Trudell. Let's see here. This Quick Pops added me. You ever had the issue, just put my Switch on sleep mode and brushed my teeth, came back to it and it won't turn on, plugged it in and still nothing? It could be like a battery thing. It looks like you got it working. Okay, good. Sometimes you have to hold and reset or put it to charge for a little bit.
I actually think I've heard of this, and if you just reset it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Or like if you haven't used your Switch in a long time, the battery's just dead. You have to leave it charging for like a while. I remember one time I didn't use my DS in like a handful of years, like 3-4 years. And I took it out of a box. I'm like, oh man, this is not working. So I just plugged it into a charger. And the light didn't even show up at first, but eventually it did. And then eventually it charged. But it took a long time because the battery was completely dead. But it came back to life, so I guess it wasn't truly dead. It was just dormant.
Well, it's Yeah, I'm not gonna explain how batteries work right now.
I'm speaking in metaphor, not in science. D.E. Fox, the official Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account just announced the third Sonic movie will release in theaters December 20th, 2024. I haven't even seen the first one.
I heard about that. The first one? You haven't seen the first one? I've not seen the second one, but I have seen the first one. You know, I haven't seen is Detective Pikachu. Not seen that. I believe the first movie is on some streaming sites now.
Yeah. Well, we got a Splatoon 3 question here. We should probably talk about Splatoon 3 soon. Yeah. Well. Yeah. So I think it's a good time to transition to Splatoon 3. Cool. So, T. Elijah Morrison added me. Is Splatoon 3 ending going to be a sad or be the happy ending? Because I think there was a Splatfest. Give me a second. I think my cat wants to come inside.
Oh yes, the Splatfest's always determined.
Yeah, talk about that for a moment. I'm gonna let my cat in.
I say always. It's only 2 games so far. That is a good question. I'm gonna look up. Andres is doing. I'm gonna look up what the last Splatfest was. See if we can't figure something out here. Last 2 Splatfest. Chaos versus Order. Okay, which one won?
False alarm.
False alarm?
Yeah, they came by the door but gave up.
Alright, so Chaos won versus Order in the last Splatoon 2 Splatfest. That is what I figured out from Googling.
So I guess the question is, does that mean there's going to be like a bad ending in Splatoon 3? I don't know if it means there's going to be a bad ending. I think that just might have to do more with like the direction they take the story.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we see like everything's kind of like very dingy and ruined almost in the first trailer. Not ruined, but it's like very not nice area they're in.
Yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic sort of like environment, right? I mean, it's kind of like the Splatoon world in general, but they're sort of showcasing it.
You do see the Eiffel Tower all kind of like in the distance,
upside down.
I think it's like upside down.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just has to do with like the theme and the aesthetic of the game. I don't think it necessarily means that the end of the game is going to be like a sad, miserable ending. I think it's just there'll probably still be victory and happiness. I mean, also the game doesn't like end, right? Just the campaign will end. Like the game is Splatoon. Like you're going to be in a city just having fun, battling other people will think. So yeah, I
would be interesting if the hub changed for you once you beat the story in 3 for some reason. There was like a story isn't for the hub to change. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting if the hub world just sort of like update or expands as you play the game. It does kind of in previous Xenoblade games, like as you progress, certain things open up a little bit, right? But for the most part, like the areas are the areas. Like you got the shop, you have the area where you go do turf battles, you have the area where you go do salmon run, you have the area where you can see like the idols on doing their thing. So, you know,
I wonder if the hub will be bigger this time and play more of a role, because the story had like, from what we saw, it had like longer areas where you could actually like walk around and do things other than just like weird ethereal levels floating above random weirdness like in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean that's something we're gonna talk about now, right? So like this, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, there's a Splatoon 3 Direct happening in 2 days, a day and a half from now, less than that. And we're probably gonna get pretty much all the details of the game. The game's coming out September 9th, so we're basically a month away. So now is the time to go out. I
told that there was gonna be a direct this month, either for Splatoon. I said either for Splatoon or a general direct, and we got a Splatoon direct.
Well, maybe we'll get both.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Or I imagine we'll just get a general direct in September.
I think so. I think we're at that point. I actually thought a little bit more on it. They could still announce, say, like a Metro Prime remaster, and they could still come out in November. Like, they could still do that. It's just a 2-month window. So it's doable. or even December. Like that still could happen. So like the whole Metro Prime like holiday rumor, like that could still happen. But going back to Splatoon though, like we're gonna get news. One of my predictions is that there's gonna be a Splatfest. Put out a video on that not too long ago. That I predicted. I mean that there'll be a Splatfest probably about 2 weeks before the game comes out. So I'm thinking like the 3rd week of August, around there, give or take a few days. I mean, actually, I had a date. Like I literally.
You mean like a test fire?
What did I say?
You said Splatfest.
Yeah, I did. I meant test fire. Yeah. They're very similar. Like during a test fire, it functions as a Splatfest, but it's a test fire. Anyway.
Sort of.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking we get a Splatfest, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's on the weekend of August 26th through the 28th. That's what I'm kind of thinking, like a couple weeks out from the release.
It'd be fun to try.
Yeah, and if that's the case, it'll be announced on Wednesday. I mean, there's enough time, right? Like, there's weeks beforehand. It could even happen a little earlier. Like, maybe it could even be like this weekend, for example. Like, they could do that. It doesn't have to be right before. Heck, it could even be more than one event. There could be two. There could be one smaller event this weekend, maybe another one like
I do imagine they want to
beforehand.
do the test fire as quickly as possible, so they have the data as quickly as possible, so they can change the servers however they feel like they need to before the game comes out as quickly as possible.
Whatever that would mean. I hear you there. I'm just saying, historically, we have seen events about a week or two out, like a Splatfest to some extent before a Splatoon game comes out. Usually, there's like 2 different events.
Yeah. The first game, there was one a couple months before, and then there was one like 2 weeks before the game came out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would hope for it to be like the next weekend, like maybe like this weekend. I would hope, but we'll see. Actually, I kind of don't, because I have work all this weekend.
I don't really think they should do it this weekend, because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is still fresh. The Mario Kart DLC just came out as well. Like, they could do that, but like, a lot of Switch users are busy playing other games right now. Like, I think they can wait a week or two.
I mean, they can, yeah.
I don't really
Either
think
way.
like, if there's a weekend to wait, I think this is a weekend you can wait. Like, there's plenty of stuff to play right now. They don't have to, though, to your point. Like, they can come up with actual games a whole other week later. But I feel that in this situation it might vary a little bit, though, because a test fire is temporary, right? Like, if it's a game, it's out, people can buy it eventually. But once the test fire is gone, it's gone. So some people may not even play the test fire because they'll be busy playing either Mario Kart or Xenoblade or something else. So what I'm suggesting is maybe they wait a week or two while those get some of that online spot, play weekend spotlight, I really mean. And then once that the calm, there's been a bit of a calm for those, they bust out with a test fire about 2 weeks before the release of Splatoon 3.
That could work.
I don't know how long it takes for them to make adjustments, if there's even really a need for adjustments. It may even be more of a promotional thing rather than an adjustment thing, it's probably a combination, but it may be more so promotional than the latter. I don't remember what direction I said it, but whatever.
Because they've, this is their 3rd game, but like even for Splatoon 2, you'd think, oh, they're using pretty much the same kind of server tech, but no, they like really improved the servers after.
Right. Yeah, Nintendo's using different online server now. So.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, I feel like they should do it as quickly as possible, just so they can fix everything.
Yeah.
I just don't want the first week of the game to be like trash because they didn't have time to fix everything they wanted to before the game servers went online.
Yeah. I'm not really worried. Like, from one angle, I never really minded the online experience in Splatoon 1 or 2, but I also
Yeah.
do expect it to be better.
I'll say the online in Splatoon 1 was more consistent. They updated the game a lot more often, but they call it tick rate, which is essentially like how many times they update the game per second. And it's just like the tick rate in Splatoon 2 is like half, and you kind of feel it. But I don't feel usually like any lag or like anything like that or disconnects. They usually don't happen, so it's fine. But I do hope with the new servers we see a much higher tick rate and just overall less times where it feels like your shots don't hit when they should have, or they did hit and they shouldn't have.
Okay. I hear you. I do remember hearing about that. I am sort of expecting for it to be better. I almost feel like Splatoon 3, in a way, one of the reasons why they want it out is so they can kind of correct on that, so it can be an improvement over it. Like, I just have a hard time believing it won't be better. Nintendo does listen to criticism. They aren't alien to issues that their games have. Like, sometimes they might still opt to not improve it in a certain way, but it's really kind of more of a choice rather than an oversight, I would say, usually.
I do feel like Nintendo understands nowadays that their online is not as good as everybody else's, and they're trying to do things to make it better. I wouldn't say that they're making it their focus in any way, but I do think we've seen a lot of steps for them to try to improve the online over this overall during the Switch era.
There's been a lot of progression for sure. And, you know, I will also say that I think when we look at when Splatoon 2 came out back in 2017, think about how many online-centric games have come out between then and now. Fortnite came out between then and now. Like, that's one of the huge ones, right? Like, there's a lot of big online games that have been a thing, and the sort of expectation or like the culture around online gaming has kind of changed drastically since then. I'm not saying that a similar structure can't still work, but what I am saying is there's been a lot of other games out there that I wouldn't be surprised that some of the devs at Nintendo, specifically the Splatoon EPD group team, wouldn't seem like, hey, maybe we can sort of incorporate that idea to some extent. So what does that entail exactly? Well, like, for example, what if we see seasons? You know, like, what if one of the ways to kind of create this sort of loop for bringing people back to Splatoon 3 is they have seasonal events, which they did to some extent already.
Passes, though, I swear to God, if they come out with a battle pass. I don't think they will, because they've always given very good free updates for Splatoon. But my God, if they ever come without a battle pass, I'm gonna be upset.
It depends how they handle it.
$60 for that game. It's not. There's no way I'll ever accept a battle pass in Splatoon unless they come up with the game for free.
Well, like, for example, in Splatoon 2, what they did is they had Octo expansion. Like, they gave you DLC for more single player content. They didn't.
That's fine.
You didn't lose out on multiplayer content. That was all free. So, you know, I'm not worried about that. They'll do that. I'm not worried about them doing that. I'm just saying, don't do that. But they can still have, like,
because when I hear seasons, instantly all I'm thinking is battle pass.
Now, you know, could they lock certain accessories behind the DLC that are purely aesthetic and not strategic? I don't know. That's where, you know, that would be tough.
They could. I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't know. I just feel like they're not going to do that because, as I said earlier, like, Splatoon is, the community is so used to just getting so much stuff for free. If all of a sudden they were like, in this game, you have to pay for cosmetic, no, there's no way people would be happy with that.
Well, what I was thinking was, so maybe they incorporate seasons, but it's not done exactly the same. They're never going to do things exactly the same. And I do agree.
Battle pass type structure, just make it free. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. And, you know, like, it could just be a different type of progression system in terms of gaining clothes and weapons and things of that nature that there's a build up for. And when there's a new season, it's a new series of weapons and things of that nature that you can sort of build up and acquire.
Yeah. And just make it like Halo Infinite, where the old seasons don't ever go away. So you can still get the stuff from the old seasons, but there's new stuff to get in the new seasons.
Maybe like in the shop. Yeah, that works. But it is something they're kind of creating an event out of it, though, right? And maybe there is a bit of a theme for each season, and ultimately there will be like a peak sort of turf war or Splatfest at the end. And what's interesting, though, is that they could even have like mid-season Splatfest as well. You know, kind of like a build-up towards that. And ooh, just think about that for a second. So you know how like on the weekends when there's a Splatfest, it's kind of like, oh, ketchup versus mustard, or chaos versus order. What if they did do something like that, but throughout a season where it's almost like a constant contest? Now, maybe you can switch sides, right? It wouldn't be as permanent. Maybe you lock in on that final Splatfest of the weekend, but it would almost be kind of like, you know, there's two sides kind of struggling for Dominion, right? And maybe there's updates quarterly, or there'll be a mid-season update where there's a Splatfest, then there's a bigger Splatfest at the end to end the season, and at the end of the season they announce the next season. It might kind of bring people more into it.
Maybe. Interesting. You know, something I'm thinking of, do you think that they'll do maps the same way, where you can only play certain maps at certain times?
I personally did
only,
not.
But switches between two. I hate that.
Did not like it.
Now, at least let it switch between like 6 different maps. You're gonna do that? Like, geez, 2 maps? Oh my god.
Yeah, I did not like that. Maybe they could just be more variety. Like maybe they could still do that, but with more variety. It's just kind of like, I don't know. If I want to play a particular map, I want to be able to play that map, you know. And if I just can't,
and you can if you do a custom game, but like if I don't have enough people to do a custom game with me, then
maybe
I just have to suck it up.
Maybe the way they get, and maybe they already did this, and I just don't remember. But maybe you can create a custom game, and you can invite people beyond just your friends, right? Like say you want to do a particular map
would be nice.
in a particular mode, you can create it, and for those who want to do custom matches, they could line up with you, right? Or people can search custom stuff that are out, and there you go. Heck, let's throw us to another level. What if you schedule it?
That's how Halo works.
What if you can schedule it?
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
And to go an even further mile, what if you can kind of host your own mini Splatfest?
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
To be able to host your own like tournaments and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? It's an idea. So, you know, I would like to see something like that. Now, is that a prediction? I think it's like reasonable, right? Like, I don't think what I just suggested is like something crazy. Like, if they were to do that, it wouldn't shock me. But also, they can go to different
other
directions.
shooters do that already, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I could see things, but the overall theme here is I think we're going to, in the Splatoon Direct, they're going to highlight some new features or modes or quality of life changes that will be like, oh, that's an idea taken from a modern online game that's been relevant in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I think they need to show us how this game is different than Splatoon 2 and not just, it shouldn't have just been DLC.
Yeah. I personally never really took part in that debate. Like, I'm sure we've had that conversation before, but like I've never really felt like, I personally didn't feel Splatoon 2 wasn't a proper game. And also, like, I thought Splatoon 1 was great right out of the gate as well. I liked they added more content, you know, that made it more valuable to me. Now, if there was never any new content, it was just what came in the base package, what I feel like it was a little light. You know what? I think I'll concede that at least with Splatoon 1, I'd feel like it's a little light. You know what? Maybe even Splatoon 2.
Splatoon 1 launched with like 2 or 3 maps, didn't it?
Yeah, it was light, but I guess I didn't care because when I first played it,
it was such a new concept.
There's enough new content at first that I was entertained for a while, and by the time I got before it was even done enjoying all the stuff from the base game, they're already coming out with new content for free. So I don't really have a problem with that structure because there's still new content coming, and I don't even think it's done in a way where they're still developing it. Maybe to some extent, but a lot of it's already kind of ready. It's kind of more of a strategy. It's just kind of like the Splatoon way, right? To kind of continue to kind of keep people coming back, to sort of facilitate an online community, you know? And I think they should actually maybe...
Something I love about Splatoon.
Yeah, it's great. It would be kind of cool if they could do more things for that, though, you know? Like, what if... Here's a crazy idea. Not necessarily a prediction, but maybe more of a wish that would make tons of sense, I think. So you know how, like, the Inklings are kind of like young teenagers, you know, kids kind of, but hip and trendy and like to hang out and socialize and stuff. What if they were to create a mode or an element of the game that were to kind of facilitate that, but also support an online community? Hear me out. What if you could get a place at an apartment? Because you know how it's like in a city, like what if you can get a room and you can maybe you can have roommates. They could be your friends or other players online you meet, and you could share this room, customize it. Maybe there could be some mini games there. Maybe they bring back like the old Splatoon game they had, like that 8-bit game they had for the loading screens, like little things like that you could play in this room, customize, and interact with other Inklings. And you have to pay rent to do it. You have to pay rent, and the way you pay rent is by succeeding playing online, and you get certain currency, but you can have roommates so they can contribute to it. So there's like this weird kind of interaction, but it plays into the idea of the Squid Kids and, you know, dressing up and kind of decking out not just yourself but an environment, which then more accessories, more things to collect and do, and it just be like a nice little fun diversion that adds more content and builds up that online community. What do you think of that?
I don't know about the rent part of the idea, but everything else sounds really cool. I love those little like Animal Crossing light elements to games. I just love being able to like have my own room and get unlock little knickknacks for my room and stuff. And
I like
decorate it.
I like the rent dynamic. Hear me out, because I mean, I understand your point. Like, what happens if you don't pay rent, right? Well, there's my point. If you don't pay rent, you get evicted. You get evicted, you no longer have room, you lose your stuff. There's a way to get it back, though. There's a way to get it back, but you kind of have to like work your way back.
I'm just wondering, like, how does it charge you? Does it charge you per day? So like you're not playing Splatoon enough, so you get evicted.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, I didn't have time to play the game this weekend.
The thing is, you have roommates.
Splatoon 3 rent.
You have roommates.
God,
though.
it's too much.
You choose roommates, so it's not just on you. Yeah.
See, that makes you have to have friends. This is just like real life. You gotta have roommates to pay rent. You gotta.
But it encourages like a communication, a social, like a socialization.
It encourages an anxiety attack.
And actually, continuing on this idea of kind of building up more of a community, an active community. You know how like when they have the Splatfest, it was like concerts. Love it. But what if that were to happen with some frequency, like not just at the end of every Splatfest, but what if like, you know, the game changes. Like there is when you play during the day and there's where you play at night. There's a bit more of a different vibe to it. And maybe what if there's like meetup spots where you can meet up with friends and interact with them in a hub area, go to your apartment, or go together to do a
You know,
Splatfest.
Nintendo needs to make their own version of Club Penguin or some kind of like social game like that. Nobody makes games like that anymore. Like those used to be a big thing. But I kind of see like you keep describing elements. I'm like, man, that's like Club Penguin. Like, man, they should just take ideas from Club Penguin, like that kind of like just social hangout kind of thing. It used to be so big on the internet, and I feel like there's still room for that to be in like multiplayer games.
Isn't that kind of like Animal Crossing-esque?
Sort of, yeah. It's sort of that way. I guess Animal Crossing would be the closest thing Nintendo has to like a Club Penguin type of game, yeah. But more social focus, because Club Penguin is also very much like a single player kind of thing. whereas Penguin is like
Now curious.
purely focused on interacting and being social with your friends. That's like the entire point of it. It's like a chat room
I know
made
of
into
this,
a game,
yeah.
essentially.
I never played it, but I know of it. Alrighty.
It's like if a chat room was also a game. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but anyways, like I like the idea of kind of facilitating somewhat of a community here. Now I'm gonna be disappointed if they don't have apartments. But anyway, just a neat little thing that I think they could do that would just kind of add overall to the game.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah. Is there anything that you kind of want to see, or that you're predicting we'll see during the Splatoon Direct?
I mentioned I want there to be more than just 2 maps in rotation. That's a big thing. I want more new modes. 2 didn't really introduce that many new modes in the actual like multiplayer. Obviously they had Salmon Run, but that was kind of like its own separate thing. I want more just modes for the base multiplayer.
Okay.
I'd also love it if they came up with like bigger maps with more people, because right now it's just purely 4v4s. It'd be cool if there were like 6v6 or 8v8, like huge maps. Would be dope.
Yeah, this may seem like kind of like a beaten over dead horse sort of topic, but I kind of, not quite a victory royale, don't kill me, but maybe somewhat of a hybrid. Because I do kind of want like another thing. Like we have the campaign, we have the multiplayer, and I know in multiplayer there's varying modes and things of that nature, obviously. And I would like to see more options like that.
They should do something like Call of Duty Rebirth. Have you ever played that?
No.
It's kind of like Battle Royale, but it's a way smaller map and way less people, and you can respawn up until a certain point in a match.
Okay.
So
yeah,
you're still trying to be the last team to survive, but it's much smaller scale, and you don't just die and you're done. Until a certain part of the match where Rebirth is disabled, and then you have to buy people back at buy stations via currency you can find in the map. But you can still bring them back. I don't think there's ever a time in the map where you cannot bring somebody back, other than just you can't access a buy station or you don't have enough money.
And I kind of like that idea to an extent, right? So you have your Salmon Run, which I'm so glad is coming back. It was one of my favorite modes. I think it might be my favorite mode in Splatoon, but
Very fun.
Like it's just amazing. But like, yeah, let's think like a 4th mode, right? Away from the online. It's still online, but it's like a different type of online, right? Where it's still team based, to your point, and it is like, maybe it is like a larger map or a slightly more open map, but it's something that there's a couple different directions they could go. Like, what if like the map is reduced or cut off, and you're trying not to let your team be cut off, but eventually certain teams are cut off and then they get eliminated, and it just kind of comes down to 2 final teams or something.
They could just make the water rise. It could be on like a kind of a hillish environment.
Sure.
Let the water be rising.
But depending on the map, right? Maybe at first it's more straightforward, but there could be some maps where it's not just straight up like the water rises from the outside, you have to get to the middle. It may be different parts, and those different parts may connect, right? Like, what if there's like a map that has like a railroad sort of thing where you can get on a tram or something that goes from one side to the other in the higher parts. So, there could be certain extra sections that get eventually cut off. That'd be really cool. And you continue in that train of thought. What if like you can block off certain sections too? What if you could knock down a tram, or you could knock down a tower that would connect to that tram, or things like that? So it's kind of like impacting the environment, not letting you get there. And it may not even be like what if it's straight up ink, right? Like you use your ink, and in this mode, ink cannot be inked over. So once it's inked, you don't have access to it anymore. But the caveat though is that you have a limited amount of ink. So then you have to be very cautious about when you use ink. And maybe there is a way to refill it, and maybe there is a way to clear ink, but it's not just as simple as other game modes where you just shoot over it and you just charge for a minute and you're good. Like there's a limitation there.
Right.
But with that limitation,
I think ink would have to be able to be inked over, but limited ink would mean you can't just ink over indefinitely. You have to choose. Should I ink over this to get over, or should I save it to kill somebody?
Maybe that could work, right? It's a limited amount of ink. Maybe you get more ink than usual, right, to start, but that's has to last you kind of like the whole game. And the only way you can get ink refills if you maybe you take a team out or something.
Yeah, I imagined there'd just be like ink refills you can pick up as like items scattered across the map.
Ultimate point is ink is a more sought after resource that you can't just replenish constantly, and it creates. It makes it more of a battle of terrain, which is interesting. Like Splatoon is already kind of like a battle of terrain, but you kind of take that to another level. It's more about not so much covering the most terrain, but sectioning off, and that would be kind of like a different style of Splatoon. And it could be larger. Yeah. It could be multiple teams. It doesn't have to be two. And actually, on that, continuing that train of thought. What if they created more modes with the more typical online style that wasn't just one team versus another? What if we have like 16 people, right? Like 4 teams of 4 in a Splatfest.
It'd be cool.
Be more hectic, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, bigger battles allow for more teams. That's another point I didn't even consider when I said we should have bigger battles. That's a good idea.
Yeah, so going beyond 2 teams might be another nice thing they could do. Going beyond that, I mean, I expect the single player to be pretty dope. Like, I actually usually really like the single player in Splatoon. I don't expect it to be long.
It's so much more grounded than the other games. There's actual design instead of it just being like kind of like this Mario Sunshine extra level kind of, you know, weird just floating platform kind of deal.
Based off the first trailer, the very beginning, it kind of gives you a vibe that's almost like a adventure RPG, right? Like that's kind of how the beginning starts off as. And I don't know if that's actually how it's gonna be, but wouldn't that be kind of cool? Where maybe it's a little bit longer than previous Splatoon games, because it's not like necessarily level based, but it's more like a linear progression adventure. And so it's a little bit longer because of the RPG elements, and it's kind of like a world that you sort of explore. One world. Like
that. It'd be cool.
Yeah. It'd be a little different. And I think that first trailer sort of suggests that, but of course, you know, it's vague. You can interpret that in a few different ways, and that was such a while ago that plans could have changed. I haven't gone around to it yet, actually.
The Octo expansion has a single player hub where you walk around and you take the train around to different levels and things.
Okay.
And any order. And you do these levels, well, not necessarily any order, but you can skip levels. And I'm wondering if there will be more choice in levels. Well, I mean, in 1 and 2, you can kind of choose to do levels in different orders.
You don't have to do them in the exact order. Like, per world, you could find certain sections and do certain sections. There's kind of like a puzzle to get to each level, like within the hub world.
Right. I think the hub world in general is going to be a lot more fleshed out. And I'm wondering how the levels will work. If it will be like more linear with the more of a story focus, or if the world will just connect in level like structure instead of like warping to different levels.
Hard to say.
I would like that if it was like more. I think you were saying this a little bit earlier. If the game were just connected as like a seamless like world that you explored as the level instead of just transporting to different levels.
There was that train, so maybe the train takes you to different areas. But maybe I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be an open world. Maybe it'll be wide linear. No. I doubt that too, actually. But I
don't know. I wouldn't mind if it was like Halo, where it's like actual setup levels with linear progression, story, and stuff. Like, I wouldn't mind that.
It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, maybe it could still be mission based, but it's like each level is kind of like an adventure. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm down for that. Definitely down for that. We'll see what they're doing. I do feel like it's gonna be a little different than Splatoon 1 and 2. I do have to. I'll probably get around to the Octo expansion before 3 comes out. So I'll get around to that. I have it for free, so.
Octo expansion is fun.
Yeah, I just have to actually
challenges.
I no longer have my initial copy of Splatoon 2, which is why I haven't gone around to Octo expansion. So I have to get Splatoon 2 again. Maybe I could like buy it used or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. I'm kind of surprised at some of the ideas we've already sort of like touched on. I didn't kind of anticipate going into this discussion.
Me either.
We haven't really talked too much on Salmon Run. We've just been like, yeah, it's awesome. And I stand by that. Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm glad it's there. But is there anything that you'd like to see sort of expanded upon, specifically with Salmon Run? But I mean, you know, if you want to mention something else, that's fine too.
Honestly, I don't know if there's anything specific that I have on my mind for Splatoon 3 past what I've already said. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways they can improve the game in ways I'm not even thinking of.
Oh, I mean, I think the potential is boundless, right? Like the sky's the limit or beyond. Like they can do all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, think about some of the cool like weapons that they've been able to come up with. Like some of those things I wouldn't have thought of. Like I kind of have to put myself in that headspace to kind of think creatively of like different types of weapons they could do. Actually, do they have a trash can yet? Like imagine like just a
no, but they have a washer and a bucket.
I know about the bucket, yeah. But imagine that. Is there a vacuum cleaner? Would be
vacuum cleaner? I don't think so.
There's like an anti.
How would you get it to blow?
Well,
maybe be like Luigi's vacuum cleaner where it can suck and blow.
Maybe that's what would be so crazy about a vacuum cleaner weapon is that it actually cleans up ink at a faster rate. You don't have as much offensive options. You're more of a terrain control. That would be your role. You still do have some offensive options. Like you can store up that ink and blast it, but it's more sporadic. Or maybe sporadic's the wrong word, but like you're more limited in your shooting. But
interesting.
But your advantage is that you are great at managing terrain.
I'm just wondering, if you're sucking up the ink, wouldn't that mean you're shooting out the enemy's ink back down on the ground? You're sucking their ink up with your vacuum?
Well, I just sort of assumed that you had like infinite storage. But let's workshop this. So like there's a couple different ways you could handle that. One, maybe you can as a vacuum, you actually can hold more ink than most other weapon sets. And you could store up a lot of ink, and when you suck up that ink, you convert it to your ink. That's part of the process, and you can then shoot it out.
I mean, that'd be a cool idea.
Yeah. Now the cat's trying to get in. Let me see if
wondering how efficient that would be.
They're ready to come inside.
Okay.
Wrong scene.
Curious what scene he put up for this. Actually, I don't know. Oh, he put up a little picture of Link. Okay. I'll go read the chat real quick. Wow, but the vacuum is a new special. Wait, there is a vacuum in the game? Leo Aguilar, the bucket that's a laundry washer. Yes, well, there's also just straight up buckets as well, so.
Yeah. Do they have sabers? And they have the ink brush, which is kind of like a saber.
I'm being told by the chat that there is a vacuum as a new special in Splatoon 3.
Okay.
Or maybe 2.
I know there's the one where you like shoot out like a hose, but that's been out. That was one of the specials. I'm talking about like I'm just throwing out. I'm spitballing ideas, but I mean, it's totally possible that I missed a special. Oh, cat sighting. What did you do? What did you do? It's okay. Can you hear me, Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay. So
The ink vac.
they're referring to it
Three.
as a special. Yeah. Anyways, having hope. We're asking about Ruby, who she is. She's here. Look, they want to see you. She's like, leave me alone. I'm good. You good? All right. So, what did you do? Oh my god.
What did she do?
I can no longer see the chat. I'm
Oh,
no
no.
longer on the page.
Oh,
I'm sure we're
God.
still alive, but... Wow. There we are. We're good. We're good. Yeah. Anyway, like, I don't know. I think we've covered. We could spitball ideas and talk about weapons that are already specials in the game, as if they're new things.
Apparently, we're not knowledgeable enough about Splatoon to properly predict things that don't already exist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm just kind of speculating on ideas. I mean, in terms of like straight up predictions, I predict that we will see more online customization options, maybe with apartments. That would be cool. I would like to. I do think we'll see another. We're going to see another mode. I don't know if that mode will be contained within the typical online mode, or be considered like its own separate thing, like Salmon Run. But I do think there'll be another mode.
I'm hoping for more basic modes.
I wonder. I'm kind of 50-50 on the idea of seeing more than just two teams. I think they could pull it off.
I think that'd be cool.
I just don't know.
I think that would be a big one. But you know something that would be the biggest thing ever? They announced voice chat on the Switch. They have headset support now. So technically, like, you can hook up mics to like your Switch, even Bluetooth now.
That would be a megaton.
Give me that voice chat, please.
That would do the rounds. That would do the waves on social media. I'll say that. I half expect them to re-push the Splatoon app via the phones, and I actually expect it'll probably. No! I actually think it'll probably run a little bit better than it did before.
I don't care.
But I think ultimately it'll be a forgotten thing. When I think on it though, I actually thought it was kind of cool having a companion app and being able to get items through the companion app and use it in my game.
Cool.
That was cool.
There are certain things that companion apps can be great for, just not voice chat. If I was going to use voice chat, I will get on Discord. If I was going to use a separate device for voice chat, I would not get on the Nintendo app.
Yeah.
Especially since you can't even hear the game. If there was some kind of feature where using the Nintendo chat, it like hooks up to my Switch over Wi-Fi and sends audio to my phone so I can hear the game and the voice chat at the same time, then I'd be like, dude, so down for this. This is a dope feature. But you can't do that. So why not just use another app that works way better, like Discord, that everybody has?
I don't know.
What's the point?
I don't know. It's Nintendo. Nintendo does not what others do. I don't know. Yeah. There's that voice chat would be crazy. I think they'll probably, if anything, go back to the app, and it'll be forgotten too, and that's just gonna be what it's gonna be. It would be amazing.
Sad days.
It would be amazing if what they did was announced a partnership with Discord, and there's an actual Discord app.
Dude,
Yeah.
that'd be insane. Honestly, I think
what's cool about the Discord app though is it would have the ability to work in the background, so it could function as a voice chat feature in specific games. Wouldn't be across the board. To be games that would be patched for it. Or
I do think Discord is a low enough power thing that, because obviously the Switch has dedicated memory and CPU and stuff to run things in the background and run the OS, so you can jump in the home menu real quick and stuff. I don't think it's impossible that Discord could be made, like a version of Discord could be made that's light enough to run in the background of any Switch game. So that would be dope. I also think that, just a little sidebar here, I'm not gonna get into next gen Switch stuff, but I have a feeling that there's gonna be a lot of things that the next gen Switch focuses on for voice chat, like having controllers with headphone jacks, having Bluetooth that doesn't suck and doesn't barely support headphones and things like that. They're already making their online way better so that it can support, not so that it can support, but to where it can support voice chat. So I think next gen is going to be a lot better for voice chat, but I hope that they at least try to do something this time around. And honestly, I don't know, Splatoon 3 just being on the regular Switch is just so weird to me in general. If they thought they needed a sequel to 2 before, seemingly a year or two before the next gen Switch is going to come out.
My cat's trying to eat my sandals. I don't think she's going to succeed, but she's trying.
Nice. But yeah, don't you think it's kind of weird that Splatoon 3 is coming out now and not a year or two from now on the next Switch? It's just... why?
That's a very interesting observation, Brandon. Because, yeah, you would think that they would save Splatoon for, a new generation. And it makes you wonder what the implication is for that if there isn't. On the same token, what about Zelda? Right? Typically, they save Zelda for a new generation. What does that say about the next generation? And I think that kind of goes back to the point I brought up earlier, how we might be looking at a situation where it's sort of a forwards-backwards compatible kind of thing, where games will be running it better and be supported on the new system that are coming out now. And it may just be not even a full-on next generational leap. It will be, but it won't be. You know what I mean? It'll still be Switch. It'll just be Switch Plus, and it will be able to, third-party developers will have the option to choose if it's an exclusive for Switch Plus or not. But a lot of
which almost certainly means that it won't. It will just be exclusive, I imagine.
Well, I mean, it depends on the game. I mean, are you gonna ignore 111 million people who want to Switch? Come on. So, hard to say on that one. Looks like my cat wants to leave now.
I think it will be the current generation is. They're still making almost every single game work on the last generation of consoles. But I don't think it'll be for supply reasons. I think it will be for just money and just keeping the original fan base happy. Like Andre said, there's over 100 million. There's over 111 million now. So makes sense to cater to that audience for a couple years while you're still waiting for everyone to move on to your next gen system. But I do think after a few years of the Switch 2 being out, we will stop seeing third parties do anything on the original Switch. And I imagine after 3 to 5 years, Nintendo won't either.
Eventually, they'll move on. I mean, they're gonna have to eventually, but they could take a while. They could really stretch things out there. But I think let's check in the chat and let's move on beyond Splatoon 3 here. Of course, you guys are still welcome to talk about it in the chat, and you can ask us questions about it.
So we gotta talk about what, Pokemon, right?
We gotta talk about Pokemon. Yeah. We did talk about Xenoblade already. We haven't talked about Mario Kart either. Mario Kart's kind of a big one too, so. Game walkthroughs. Do you think that Breath of the Wild 2 will have underwater exploration? Yes.
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 Yes. I've been saying this for years.
Yeah, I actually may make a bit more dedicated video on this, but I do think so. I mean, yeah, Brandon's been advocating for this for a long time.
3D Zelda game has it, other than Breath of the Wild,
Wind Waker,
and Wind Waker. Yes, I was about to say.
Phantom Hourglass.
Does that count as a 3D Zelda?
It has polygons.
True. But
then,
it's a very much a top-down style.
Okay, there's a top-down Zelda, so not counting top-down Zeldas. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it isn't. Phantom Hourglass is like a weird situation because it's like more 3D than any previous.
Say it's any more 3D than Link Between Worlds.
I mean, they both have like perspective. They play around with camera perspective at times. And anyway, yeah. That's the typical console Zeldas. Yeah, the only one without underwater exploration is Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. And I think Breath of the Wild was purely more of a limitation issue. Maybe not even a limitation issue, just getting it to work. It was just a
time.
Yeah.
It was a time thing.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of things underwater. Like, there's certain systems and mechanics already in place for it. They just didn't go all the way. Maybe, they're like, oh, we could do this later. Like, there's that coral section. I didn't know there was a chest, but that could have just been used for testing. But why were they testing underwater? I mean, it could have just been for a number of reasons, because you can still drop things underwater and move them and or pick it up, like through magnesis or stasis.
Yeah.
So, like, imagine you go to Zora's Domain and you go underwater, and all of a sudden what you thought was Zora's Domain was just a piece of Zora's Domain.
Yeah.
That would be
like
cool.
a whole ancient Zora's temple down under there. Oh.
Yeah, and that's where the temples are, just straight up underwater. That's why we couldn't see it last time, And also, you think about that, like maybe the fire temple was actually inside Death Mountain, but Death Mountain, you couldn't go inside of it because of the lava. The lava has cleared up a bit, so now you can see the fire temple. Yeah. Right?
I
now
think
it's starting to make sense where all the temples could be.
The temples are underwater, underground, and in the sky.
The Deku Tree, it's missing. That's where the Forest Temple is.
Is it missing? I never noticed that in the trailer.
Yeah, apparently
it is.
Apparently it's missing.
But yeah, you should be able to see it in the flyby of the second trailer at the end when they're showing Hyrule Castle again. Yeah.
It's not there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I never noticed that.
So, maybe that's where the Forest Temple. We're tangenting here, but I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So, there's a number of little things they're going to do that I think will open up the world more for more exploration. As we mentioned, right, the missing lava and the Death Mountain, the missing tree, the missing Deku Tree. Like, what does that open up? There was a lot of seismic activity. What does that open up, right? There's more caverns and things to explore. We've already mentioned the skies. You go underwater. Maybe they even expand the boundaries a little bit more. Like, there's a number of little things that can be done. Man, I want to learn more about this game. When will we?
Right.
We'll talk about that maybe next week. Just checking in the chat here. Let's see here. Joy CJ, I think some of the ruins are secretly hidden dungeons. There's also a lot of empty places in Breath of the Wild to put dungeons. There's empty space all over. And it's by intention. I mean, some of the empty space kind of... It's almost like, imagine if there's just something literally everywhere. That doesn't make sense. You kind of need empty space in between. You need that contrast. You need that space to breathe and move around.
Breath of the Wild.
But yeah, there's definitely room to add more stuff. Go on.
Yeah. And it's very much built for everything to be as clean and easy to see and read as possible. I also think that's a main reason why people think the game looks so good, is because it's so clean and polished, and even though technically it's still like very much a Wii U game and there's tons of Switch games that technically outperform it, it's still one of the best looking games on Switch because it just takes its art style to 11, and it does everything perfect, and everything is easy to see, and everything's easy to read, and everything looks clean and polished.
Yeah. I'm very curious how much they're gonna push with the sequel. Looking here, Having Hope 5 said, I think Breath of the Wild 2 will be much bigger than Breath of the Wild 1 because of the sky. Hope there will be underground dungeons and underwater exploration as well.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is that, like,
new stuff.
You know, right now where I'm staying, there's kind of been an issue of figuring out where to put things because of space. And sometimes it's just sort of taking better advantage of your vertical space and not just your horizontal space. Right. And when you start to look more into what you can do vertically, not just horizontally, I mean, that expands how much you can actually store exponentially, right? So you look at Breath of the Wild, yeah, you could leap into the air, you could climb mountains, and there was a certain level to the vertical space that was beyond most other games, but they're taking that to an even greater height or an even lower depth.
When they meant an open air game, they meant literally open in the air game.
Yeah, right, and that's so exactly. So now we are expanding to the skies, to your point, and there's hints towards maybe underground, underwater. And they do that, right? So like it's kind of like Breath of the Wild is like this, right? Like it's a fat sort of space like this, but you expand the skies, you expand underground, all of a sudden it's like this. You expand the boundaries a little bit, it's significantly bigger now as opposed to like that. Like that's you know, there could be a lot there they could add, and obviously they could put in new stuff within the areas that there already were. They could change it around, remix it for sure. They have to, basically. So there's a lot of potential there. But let's move on to, I really want to talk about Mario Kart, but let's talk a little bit about Pokemon briefly.
You want to talk about Pokemon first? I would have thought that was the bigger topic.
I have
way more to say on Pokemon than Mario Kart, I'm going to be honest.
Really?
Yes. But I also didn't play the Mario Kart tracks. I have seen how every single one of them works.
All right, well, I guess we're talking about Mario Kart and then Pokemon. That's fine. So yeah, I think they're great. I'm actually fairly impressed. I think one of the cool things, this is not even really talking about Wave 2 specifically, but they're going back. Like, they're still going back and they're improving upon things in Wave 1. They fixed Coconut Mall. I think that's a huge win. So if you haven't seen it yet, basically in Coconut Mall, the last race for the first first cup that they added, at the end of the lap, you have like these cars, like these taxis. I think they're taxis. But Shy Guys in them. And in the older game, the older versions of Coconut Mall, they would move. They would be moving obstacles. Yeah,
I think they would like be driving across the road in the Wii game, like constantly.
Yeah, that's right. In this one, they were stationary initially, but they updated it now to where they do a circle. They do a loop. It's actually, it throws me for a loop. Like, it's cool. I actually like it more than when they're moving horizontally. So it's actually, I would say it's an improvement beyond the initial one, the initial version. But it also it fixes Coconut Mall, because I felt it was kind of a glaring issue. They kind of made the end of Coconut Mall feel a little underwhelming. But
because I love Mario Kart Wii, so Coconut Mall was a big one for me.
Yeah, it was a big one. So I'm really glad they fixed that. It breathes life back into Coconut Mall. Like, it's like, all right, Coconut Mall is like a great track now. Like, I never felt it was a bad track, but it didn't feel it was great anymore either. And I think this difference is actually significant enough to put it slightly past good. Like, it's a quality track now. So I think that makes a big difference. But then also, they updated some of the dirt mechanics with the wheels that weren't apparent
Yeah, so when you drive in the dirt now, it actually coats your tires and it coats them the correct color, depending on what type of dirt you drive over.
Which is important. It used to be like it was like that with the base game.
Yes.
But with this new DLC that's clearly not being made by the Mario Kart team, there's definitely some differences. But now let's get into Wave 2 specifically. And I actually am planning a video on this. So I think you may see that shortly into this week. But the tracks, like, I would say from a visual perspective, they look good in comparison to 1. Like, they're same sort of level. Some of them maybe stand out a little bit more. But overall, this is not like all of a sudden they now feel like as detailed and
I
as
wouldn't
polished
say they
as
look
base
really
game.
much more detailed than the first track.
They're on par.
I think people are just getting more used to the style they're going for. I always thought track 1 looked good by the time it actually released. The first trailer looks pretty rough, but when it actually came out, like, I thought it always looked really good. I think it doesn't look as realistic in some ways or detailed in some ways as Mario Kart 8 does. But I always thought it looked fine. It looks very clean, very colorful, and it has detail. It's not like flat shaded polygons or anything. Like some parts of the tracks in 1 were, but even then, like, most of the objects weren't. It'd be like one small element of parts of the track.
Yeah,
I never thought it was a big issue.
I think my biggest issue, I mean, I do feel like a lot of the textures in the DLC with the Boost First Pass feel plain. Up close, they're not entirely plain. There's like some kind of texture to it, but it looks very plain and it's like sort of like flat colored in a lot of sections. Specifically,
I think it's the way they handle the specular lighting. Doesn't show off the details. It kind of just glosses over them for some reason.
Maybe. Like New York Minute is the first track in the first cup of Wave 2, and it's actually a very colorful map. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, there's a lot of colorful lights, and like the track's like kind of wet. It looks like, so you can see like color reflected, and it looks pretty.
Yeah, they use a lot of cube maps.
But the issue I have with it, though, is that all the buildings have like a flat texture, and so there's a sort of plainness. Like, there's tons of color, but there's not a lot of texture in a lot of the buildings, and some of the grass as well. I mean, there may be texture in the grass, but it's like dark, and it's not super. To Brandon's point, it may just not be very clear that it's there, or even if there is texture, it's not like a very unique texture. It's kind of like a very basic texture. And then the building just looks like flat colors. And I think that takes away from it a little bit for me. It looks more simplistic visually. It's still pretty. It's still colorful. It's not a big issue, but at least for me, it's a little jarring. And maybe it's because I'm kind of having it in my mind, I'm kind of looking for it. But it's clear there's a difference. Like, there's clearly a difference. There just is. But I'll also say, you know, this sort of more solid look isn't really that much of an issue in other maps. Like, I forget the name of it, but the Game Boy Advance remake of the ice track with the penguins, that one looks great.
Oh, that one.
It's perfect.
Yeah, that one actually was really good.
It's perfect to me. Like, I think it looks wonderful, colorfully. The textures are fine. Like, there's nothing, like, not everything's like a super advanced, high, you know, super textured area, but some of it doesn't need it. It just aesthetically it blends well. I have no problems with it.
Snow areas have always been that kind of way, where like ice and snow are just inherently not that detailed.
Yeah, so I guess you can get away with having more of a simpler look, and it still looks pretty and refined. Maybe that's what it is. You know, one of my favorite tracks. I'm still kind of harping on the visuals here, or anti-harping or whatever, is the tour track for Sydney That one, I love the track. I love the track, love the music. Visually, I think it's fine, but there's a part that is really distracting. And you go through, I forget what it is. I guess when you go through like the chorus house, like, you know, like the big sort of like monument.
Right, the Sydney house.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a crowd of, I guess, Shy Guys, maybe other Mario characters, and they're just flat textures that are jumping around. And I don't always have a problem with that.
That is kind of a big oof.
I've seen that in games, and that's not always an issue.
You're that close, though.
But it's the perspective matters. Because you're coming in, then it's like a tunnel, right? Like this. The Shy Guys or the audience are on the sides, and you're driving straight through. It's small. So you're really close to them, and you see them at an angle.
They don't turn to look at you.
Right. So you kind of just see their flat sides.
Yeah.
And it's
most games program 2D objects to always be facing the camera. But they don't do that here, so you just see, it's like, what are we playing, Paper Mario right now? What is happening?
Yeah, exactly. So it just looks dumb. And it's a small part of the overall map. It's not a big deal. But it's just like little things like this where I feel like there's visual inconsistencies. It's clear that the team behind this is not as capable. I don't want to say they're less talented. They're just maybe less people, less time, less money, but...
there's something about the clean style that I actually really enjoy. It's just I do get that there are some parts though like that were just straight up don't look good, but overall the tracks actually look really nice.
Well, I mean, and to
your
point,
I would say Calamari Desert, which I want to talk on in more detail in a bit.
Oh, we're gonna,
because that's my most hyped stage. But that track, I think, actually looks really good. I think the way they shade, like, the canyon and have, like, this, like, red glow from the sand onto the wall, it looks really nice. Like, they do, like, this really nice shading, and it's simple, but very cleaned and refined, and it looks great.
In the trailer, I felt like Calamari Desert was going to be another one of those overly simplistic stages that I would kind of feel like it's missing out a little bit. But playing through it a few times now, I don't really feel that way. I think
the way they do the shading actually kind of adds detail in, even though a lot of the textures are fairly simple. Just the way they shade like the textures looks very nice and adds a lot more complexity to it.
I actually like the track overall, and you get to see more things because it's not the same thing. Like this Calamari Desert, like it changes it per lap.
Okay,
it looks good.
Hold on. Before you say, I want to tell a story about this track and why I've wanted this track to come back, and how disappointed I was in how Mario Kart 8 works specifically with this track. When I was a kid, obviously this track comes from the N64 game, and I played this game all the time when I was young. From like 3 years old till I was like 12, I would play this game like all the time. And one of the biggest things we would do, especially when we were really young, is we would go off the track like you can in N64, and you can't in Mario Kart 8, and you can go into the tunnel and just follow the train, and it was cool. And if you were fast and you had a star, you could actually use it for a shortcut. We didn't care about that. We just liked to go follow the train around and be in the tunnel. And it was a cool thing about Mario 64 is you could explore a lot of areas outside of the track. And there wasn't really much to do there, but it was just cool you could go.
Right, it was cool that you could do it. There was like a certain novelty there. And now there's like you're not really allowed to do that. There's like basically a wall that blocks you. And that's actually another thing that I think I dislike. This conversation is turning into kind of like a Mario Kart DLC hate train discussion. Let me just make myself clear. I'm very hyped for the DLC. I've actually really enjoyed it. I love it. But we're just right now we're just talking about issues. We're just talking about issues. That doesn't mean we don't like it. We're gonna get to stuff we like soon.
My issue leads into something really cool. But go on with yours because it's actually related.
I was gonna say something else that I've kind of across the board haven't loved is the arrows, where it's like, oh, you see arrows, you can't go beyond there, even though it's programmed. Then technically we could allow it. We're just not gonna let you. You have to go in this direction. I don't like that they do that. Now I understand that they're doing that because it's kind of an artifact from Tour. And in Tour, like
Mm-hmm.
I guess the gimmick is that the Tour tracks, they change. The lap is different per lap, which is really cool. I
Yeah.
love that, but I also wish they were to kind of open up and you would just have options, because I don't know, like it just feels more limited in that way. And I don't like that. I feel like the DLC tracks feel more limited, while you had a little bit more range of movement in 8. The base
There are
base
some times
tracks.
where I think in New York Minute they'll have stuff on the side of the road, and if you hit that or you go onto parts of the sidewalk, Lakitu will act like you fell off the map and pull you into the middle in a really slow animation and just completely screw you up, instead of just having to like reverse or just turn and go around, which is just so dumb.
Yeah, I haven't even like given myself the opportunity to get screwed
Yeah.
up like that. I do know they
But
patched the Lakitu up a little bit. Like the Lakitu doesn't recover you the same way it used to.
okay.
Yeah, they've done some
But
mechanic patches.
all this to say, I thought that there was no way in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version of this game where I'd be able to go onto the train tracks and mess with the train. But as we're about to talk, they changed the stage, and one of the laps, the second lap I believe, you go onto the train tracks, and I was just like, this is the best thing ever. This is so fucking cool. Oh my god. Young me is just so hyped. They actually incorporated my favorite thing about that track straight into the race itself.
Yeah, so it's
It's
kind
just
of
great.
like, on one hand, right, the chain, it's the arrow, the invisible arrow walls is sort of a lane limitation. Like it's kind of like, oh man, I can't explore there even though it's clearly there, and that's kind of annoying. But it also facilitates the changing laps that can make certain tracks feel pretty cool, because it's like, hey, there's some variety here. It's a sort of feels
Yeah.
dynamic, and that's awesome.
In
But
New York
also,
Minute, you go on a separate lap on the third lap, don't you?
yeah, it changes. I don't. New York, it's just underwhelming personally. It's my least favorite track of this recent batch.
Interesting.
It's not terrible. It's just basic to me. It just feels basic. So you know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the tunnel section is pretty cool. Some of the ramps are pretty cool. I mean, it's changed around. I will say I love that we can go through the tunnel. I'm glad they did that. Like, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to do it, because like when we saw the first trailer, you see Link, I think it was Link, like driving towards a tunnel, and it was clearly a tease towards something of the tunnel, but it just looked straight black, so it almost looked like they didn't program like anything to kind of go through there. So I was worried, and I'm glad that it's actually a planned part. But another like consideration here is that because it's planned, I almost like it less, if that makes sense. Because to your point, Mario Kart 64, you could choose to do it. It would usually not really be beneficial for you to do it, but you just had the option, and that was cool. You have to do it in this version. So
True.
the rebel in me is like, oh well, now it's not cool and rebellious. I'm now, like you're doing what you're supposed to do.
But that's just kind of a fault of Mario Kart 8 in general. Is they're just way too anal about keeping you on the track. Like, please, let me go where I want.
I want
Mario
Kart 9
8
to
are
be
very
far more open.
scripted. Yes.
Like you can still stick to, you can still kind of have the core. But really, what I want is for them to make the tracks bigger and feature a lot more different directions. Like maybe make the tracks feel more like Yoshi's Valley.
Yes.
But I'll also tell you that with Yoshi's Valley, there's like one way I go like every time.
Fastest.
Yeah, but maybe design in a way where that isn't always the case, where there isn't one route that's necessarily the fastest. And there are some tracks that have some of that variety to an extent. Take it to another level. And maybe there's actually a couple different optimal routes, and you have to kind of figure that out, or it may change dynamically depending on the situation.
I love the way that Mario Kart 64's tracks are designed with like their shortcuts. They're just parts of the levels that are actually unique routes that are actually hard to get to, Like there's one in I think it's called like Turtle Beach or something,
Yeah.
where you have to go up like a ramp and then like shoot into
Koopa
a
Beach.
very small hole that's barely big enough
Yeah.
for your cart.
So cool.
And then you get into like a shortcut. Like make shortcuts like that. I feel like in Mario Kart 8, you'd hit that ramp and the Lagartute would be like, oh no no no, and he'd come out of nowhere and just put you back where you need to go.
Yeah.
Like God, stop.
Koopa Troopa Beach.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That cave through the waterfall.
Like,
Yeah,
in
it's
Mario
hard
Kart
to land.
64, shortcuts were about exploring the map and finding new routes or just the fast routes or places you could jump off the map and land on another part and
Like
actually like
in
proper
Koopa
skip
Troopa Beach,
parts.
there's like a lot of ocean. You can just go into the ocean. Like you can just do that. You actually can do that in some of the tracks in base game Mario Kart 8, but that wouldn't be an option at all if there was like an ocean-based level in the DLC. Like we're just like, there's water, you can't touch it though. Like I don't like that. That said, it's not to say that the tracks are bad. There's a lot of good ones, and to the point you're making earlier about how some of the more vivid, colorful, more simplistic sort of aesthetic kind of appeals to you a bit, I'll say that one track in particular that I think really takes this to the ultimate level and I think it benefits the most from is Waluigi Pinball. Like that one, love it. I think it's one of my favorite tracks in the new cups, and I've seen some people suggest otherwise. Like I think it's perfect. Like I like it as it is. I don't think it needs to change, and I think it's actually a very pretty track. It is what it's supposed to be, and I still feel like it's a massive track. Like I think on Mario Kart DS it was like huge for those standards then. Maybe it's not like as massive now because their standards have risen, but I think it still sort of satisfies like that final track in a cup. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like how like that final track you always kind of want it to feel like a little bit bigger, a little bit more like of a climactic final race. Waluigi Pinball does that for me, and I think it's a standout amongst the DLC.
It also just looks really good.
Yeah, it does.
You can see like I do, even though they're not using all of the same benefits that Mario Kart 8 has, they're still using a lot of them, like very nice materials, like the big metal pinball flying around. They got like cube map reflections on there, and they got cube map reflections on all the ground surfaces. It looks nice. They got stuff going on there. It's not like it's completely devoid of any sort of like detail or any of the graphical features that Mario Kart 8 has in the base game.
Yeah, I think it fits. That's one of the few that I guess it's one of the things where it doesn't need
Pinball
to
probably
have like
looks
a lot
the
of
best. I'd say Waluigi Pinball looks the closest to like a normal stage in the base game.
Yeah. And you know, on the note of the base game, there's another track we need to talk about before we move on, and that's Sky High Sunday. It's an actual new track, and
with gravity,
and you feel the gravity this time. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, but when you play Sky High Sunday, the gravity wheels are on, the anti-grav is on the entire time, and when you hit things you get the spin boost, which is awesome. I miss the spin boost because you don't have it in any of the other DLC tracks. That's probably one of my, like, if I had to choose between having spin boost and anti-gravity versus visuals that match Mario Kart 8, I would choose having spin boost and anti-gravity, and they don't have it except for this one track, and I think it makes a difference. Now, when I first saw the DLC trailer for it, I was like, okay, there's anti-gravity, that's cool, but is it even really necessary? Actually, having played Sky High Sunday, it feels necessary. And I think what's great about that is that in a lot of, it almost feels more necessary than a lot of tracks in Mario Kart 8, the base game. Like, you kind of just get used to it in Mario Kart 8. In Sky High Sunday, it's not like you're going upside down. You don't go upside down, but there are a lot of angles that you could tell that if it was a normal race, you would be like kind of falling, sliding off. It wouldn't really quite work. But also, whenever you jump off a ramp, there's like a pulling effect. Like you actually feel kind of like a pulling towards a track, and I actually feel like, oh, there's an actual like gravity mechanic
You
here.
can like magnet the track.
Yeah, there feels like a magnetic pull, and that, you know, it's not something I really experienced or felt like to a noticeable degree in the base game. So in a way, Sky High Sunday is the most Mario Kart 8 track of all the Mario Kart 8 tracks. I have some minor issues with it. Like, I like that you can spin boost, but I don't like how there's like this yellow rail that you can kind of hit to spin boost repeatedly, which is great. But it doesn't have any of the spin boost markers, and it's sort of like a plain yellow rail that's kind of like very simplistic. There's like no texture on it at all.
It's the same thing Nintendo Life said about it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. I didn't see him say that, but yeah, it's such a basic yellow rail. Like it's super simplistic. Like, I give it texture or something. Like it's super basic. You can see like it just doesn't even look like super smooth. Like it's basic.
Very low poly.
Yeah, it's very low polygon. Correct. Like, at least give it like some blue like little markers just to show that a spin boost would work on it, something. But yeah, going beyond that little gripe, it's great. I mean, I guess that's kind of like my overall feeling with the DLC. There's always like parts of the tracks that just don't stand. Like, they're like there's certain
What do you feel
objects.
about Mushroom Gorge?
It's okay. I think
Gorge is one of my favorite Wii tracks.
I like how it looks. I think visually it's great, actually. Like, I love the inside of the cave and all the different colored crystals. The mushrooms are fine. They added a flying one, which is fine. I feel like it's really short.
That was from the 3DS game.
The blue mushroom?
Yeah. They had that in the 3DS one, I've heard. Although I didn't actually play the 3DS one, that's what I was told.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't Mushroom Gorge from Wii?
Yes, but
Okay.
then I think it was also on 3DS, and they added the blue mushroom because they had the flight in 3DS as well.
So it's based off of the 3DS version.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. But it's also an interesting thing that we're seeing some remade tracks remade again now.
Yeah.
So they've kind of changed.
I mean, we were getting a lot of
multiple
tracks.
times.
It's kind of inevitable.
I don't mind. It's fine. I'm not. That's not.
No,
my,
it's fine.
My criticism with the DLC is that visually there's a lot of inconsistencies, like the flat building textures in New York Minute, or like the janky yellow rail in Sky High Sunday, which takes away from an otherwise great track that I think is visually stunning, and it has a lot of cool gravity mechanics. There's just like weird stuff like that that's just missing, right? Like it just feel like it's kind of lacking in polish. And to that point, now this is a lot of anecdotal stuff, right? But I've seen a lot of people point out a lot of glitches in the DLC. Like, even like older tracks are now more glitchy now because of, like, I guess the mechanic changes they've done. Like, I saw someone taking advantage of the new patch to like fly around all of Coconut Airport?
Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah, which is cool. I kind of want to try that myself now, but also that breaks the game. So
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I feel like there's just a little bit of there's not enough polish here, and that bothers me a little bit. I still feel like it's a good deal. I still love the tracks. I'm enjoying them. I think for most people, they're just fine. I'm just sort of looking at it from a critical perspective.
In 2 years for what, like $25? I don't think the quality is anything more than I would expect, to be honest.
I mean,
like, imagine how much work it would be to for them to do every single one of the track up to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's level of quality for 48 tracks.
And
when they already
that's an
have to
interesting
remake
point.
them for tour.
It's
So not
quantity
only do they
versus
have to make them
quality
for tour,
here. It is quantity
yeah.
versus quality.
It is.
And I guess the question is there enough quality to this quantity? And
I think
overall,
there
I
is.
think so. I mean, you know, I'm excited for this. I want more tracks. Like, I'm not mad that there's new tracks. I I wish there was some improvements, but the good news is they've demonstrated that they are willing to go back and improve things.
Oh.
So some of the, and it's not even gameplay issues that I necessarily have even issues with. Well, it is, but I don't think they're going to go back and add spin boosting and anti-gravity to all the tracks. Like, that's too much to expect. Hoping that they'll maybe like fix up a couple animations or one little part like they did with Coconut Mall. That's feasible. Like, I could see them maybe fixing the weird audience in the Sydney tour track. Like, that they might fix.
Something I do kind of think is odd is some people think, I don't know. I don't think that there's every track in this DLC is like smaller than every other track in the base game, which I feel like some people are trying to like make people think like every single, like, there isn't a single track in the DLC that isn't as good as any track in the base game, and I just think that's not true. Like, there's so many simple tracks in the base game too, like Moo Moo Meadows. There's no anti-grav and spin boost and thing. It's like a oval with cows on it.
Moo Moo Meadows is a classic.
It's one of my favorite stages.
Love it.
I love Moo Moo Meadows. It is my favorite stage to ever exist in Mario Kart, but you gotta admit, it's very basic. It's like so incredibly basic. It's just some cows on a almost oval-shaped track.
Yeah. I love Moo Moo Meadows. I actually...
And the graphics aren't that detailed either. Like, they're very simple, very basic. There's grass texture
Moo Moo
with
Meadows
some grass.
The
lighting is
visually stunning.
The lighting is extremely nice, but I'd say like most of the environment itself is very basic, but it lends itself to, like, it has this beautiful like sunset. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Like, there's the GBA track that I really like. I forgot the name of it. Is it like Mario Circuit 3 or something?
Oh. Yes. I don't remember the name either, but yeah, it's like Mario Circuit with a number.
Mario Circuit, yeah.
I thought you were referring to the penguin one for a second. That you were talking about earlier.
No. Not talking about the penguin one right now. But
yeah, that one is very simple. I think it fits because it kind of has this, like, if the SNES Mario Kart was in 3D kind of style to it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's Mario Circuit 3. Yeah, SNES Mario Circuit 3, so I guess I wasn't wrong. I actually really like that track. I actually like the visual upgrades. It's meant to be basic, but it's like a pure racing track, and I think it's great. Like, it's solid racing.
And there are tracks like that in the base game too, so
Absolutely.
I don't know, there's this weird idea that every single track is like the worst track in the base game is still better than the best track in the DLC, and I feel like that's not really true.
I mean, to tell you the truth, like, just thinking about each track that we get in the Wave 2, my least favorite track is New York Minute. It's okay. It's just okay for me. Mario Circuit 3 is also simple, but it's still nice. Like, it's nicely polished, aesthetically pleasing, and it's just clean, good turns and racing.
Great stage.
What?
It's funny to me that you didn't see the Nintendo Life video because you have very similar opinions to them on certain things.
I guess we're just speaking facts.
Yeah.
Calamari
That's just
Desert.
how you know they have good opinions.
At first,
it's my favorite stage in the new pack.
I honestly,
I haven't played.
It's not my favorite.
I'm just going off what I've seen.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. Maybe it's just because I keep losing in it because it's more hectic. But it is. I do overall. I like what they did with it. I think it's good. I think it's a good track.
Mine's just
sure.
mostly nostalgia and the fact that they incorporated a major part of my nostalgia from my childhood into the new track is great.
Waluigi Pinball to me is is A tier. Like, I think they did it right. I don't really have any qualms with it. It's great. I mean, the same can be said for Calamari Desert, but I don't know. Waluigi Pinball just feels like more smooth to me. So I just enjoy it a little bit more. Something also say I have noticed, I have found myself having more opportunities with the tracks to use the purple drift boost, which is something they added for 8 Deluxe.
Okay.
And actually, while we made a lot of judgments against the DLC, saying it doesn't feel quite like 8, I would say these tracks, in one way, are more 8 Deluxe, because I do feel like it's a bit more facilitated for the purple boosts, which is not something that was an option in the initial Mario Kart 8. So, that's a point in the DLC's favor. Like, it's maybe a little bit more suited for one of the newer 8 Deluxe mechanics. So, it's got that going for it.
Nice. I like purple boost maps. Like, there's a map in the base game from the 3DS. It's music based, and you like ride on giant pianos and things. Yeah. That one you can get purple boost a lot, because like, especially when you're like sliding along the pianos, there's just huge drift areas.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite stages in the base game.
That one's a rough one, but I see where you're coming from with that.
I love that one on 200cc. It can be very unforgiving if you don't hit the corners at the right times. Right. But if you do, it's so satisfying. And you get these super long drifts, and you can hit the purple drifts. It's great.
I love purple drifts are one of my favorite things, because you also can feel like the HD rumble, and it's like it's satisfying to kind of feel that sort of taper off. It's great. But going to the Propeller Cup, the second cup, Tour Sydney Sprint. Gotta say, love Tour Sydney. I think it's pretty. I think it has variety. The music it's a real banger. Tour Sydney just feels awesome. My only issue with Tour Sydney is just that one little section that has the crowd that's just kind of jarring, because it's very noticeable. But otherwise, it's a gem. It's a real gem of a track, and that's something that could probably be patched. So maybe they will fix that little thing up there. It destroys the New York Minute, just for the record. Like, it's a no contest. GBA Snowland, I actually really like this track. I wasn't sure how much I would like it, because it was based off Game Boy Advance, and the Game Boy Advance tracks are in general more simple. But just like Mario Circuit 3, I love Mario Circuit 3, but also Mario Circuit 3 very clearly looks like it's paying homage to like that initial style, the 16-bit style. With the Mode 7. I mean, it's not actually paying off. Yeah, I mean, kind of, but anyway. But GBA Snowland just almost looks like a new track, like a modern day track. Like, it just looks like a modern day track. The music is charming, the stage is nice, the ice looks cool. It's a solid track. Like, I have no issues with this track. It does everything right. Like, it's not the best track, but not every track can be the best track, right? It's not like trying to be the most epic track ever. It's just like a nice, comfortable, like Mario Ice World kind of track with penguins and trees and snow. And it's nice, it's pleasant. Like, it's good. Mushroom Gorge, I guess I know I'm in the minority here. Mushroom Gorge always kind of left me wanting more, even the initial version on the Wii. So I can't even.
It's kind of short,
and it's really just that. Like, I think the track is awesome. I enjoy the track while I'm racing it. I just feel like it's too short.
Concept's great. Should have made it longer.
It's kind of like you start the race, you do a loop, you get on the mushrooms, and then you turn and you get on the final mushrooms. You turn and the race is over. Like, that's kind of it. Now, I love some of the visual changes, like inside the cave, you have all the crystals and things of that nature.
Very beautiful.
So, I mean, I think they do the stage justice in terms of making it look nice and re-representing it. Like, it's all fine in that way, but it doesn't fix the issues I had with it initially, which is just that it's too short. So, for me, I would say Mushroom Gorge is like a bit more on the lower end of the spectrum for me liking all the stages here. Like, I like it more than New York Minute. New York Minute, I think I'm gonna continue to shit on that stage. I just don't like it.
Man, I don't understand. I've seen people play the stage. I'm not sure why you hate it so much, but okay.
All right,
It looks cool. I like that the third lap changes. That seems fun.
Okay. I know I'm looking at the Nintendo website right now, and I know it's hard for you. Well, you're not on camera, so you could look. I'm gonna screen share the website real quick. And I think me screen sharing the website will give you an idea as to what I'm getting at here. Because, like...
I have seen the track, like, all 3 laps, but... If you show me what you're talking about, maybe I'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've seen it, but I think it's just kind of like... It's a sample size, right? Like, the one shot they show of New York Minute sort of expresses some of my issues with it, like, right off the bat. And you compare it to the imagery for all the other 7 tracks, and they all like look way better. All right, let me know when you can see it, because I know there's a delay between when we're live and the stream.
I can see it.
Okay, so like you see how here it's just one image, but you see how here like you can see the buildings. It's just like little blocks with lights. And like even look at this one, it looks like a very basic. It's like almost like this could be on N64, and I'm not necessarily comparing a polygons. It's a rectangle, like it's a square prism or whatever you want to call it. Like it doesn't have to be a complex sort of geometrical masterpiece. But the point is, everything here is very bare. Like there's not a lot to it. And then you look at this one, like you know, there's a certain like light to it, like everything just looks colorful and nice. Like it's even though it's based off a Super Nintendo game, it looks wonderful for what it is. And then Calamari Desert, we've spoken on that, like it all matches well. Waluigi Pinball just destroys it visually, just saying. Tour Sydney Sprint, another tour track. Like you look at this, like look at all these, just for comparison. You see like
so much more busy.
But right, you see these buildings and see how like it has way more geometry, right? Like you look at this, like look at how much more geometry is here, or even a comparable building. You see here how like it's not just like a rectangle, like there's clearly a lot more geometry going on here. Then you look at this, and it's just squares.
I think they were going for a much simpler style in New York Minute.
I think the issue with New York Minute is that it was like one of the first tour tracks, and this is one of the newer tour tracks. So there's a significant difference there in quality, or just
I actually do remember playing New York Minute when Mario Kart Tour came out. That could definitely be it because it's one of the first tracks. But you'd think they would have more time to go over fix it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing though. They don't go back and fix every little thing to like sort of match. You just kind of.
I think the detail up close. There's just so much detail up close that blocks a lot of the other buildings, anyways. And I feel like that's kind of what they were focusing on, and not the buildings. I think the buildings are supposed to kind of like be background almost.
You know, one of these days I'm just gonna do a video of me just attacking New York Minute. Like, look, I'm gonna drive around each block, but look, this building sucks.
I think the intention was supposed to be like this silhouetted New York like backdrop, and not something super detailed that you're supposed to be looking at all the time.
You know what would be cool though? Like if maybe the backdrop was so dark you can't even really see the buildings. You could just see the lights. You know? Like, that might even have been better if they just actually looked like silhouettes. Anyway,
I think that's where they're going for, though. I think that's why the buildings are so black. They're just supposed to look like really dark. You're just supposed to focus on the lights and the silhouette of the building. Yeah,
and you know, I keep speaking ill of New York Minute. It's a fine track. Like, it's not like abysmal. It's just mediocre compared to everything else. I just think it's the worst of the 8. That's it.
Fair.
Like one of them has to be the worst, and to me, it's very clearly the worst. Sky High Sunday, I think, looks nice, save for the weird yellow rails. And I mean, you know, overall, I think the tracks are good. Like, I would say Wave 2 is actually better than Wave 1. Yeah. I feel yeah. There's just multiple tracks that I'm like, yeah, it's a banger.
Whoa,
Mario Circuit 3, banger. Calamari Desert,
I just did
banger.
something on my phone I didn't know was even possible.
What?
I got YouTube to picture in Discord and play the stream while having another app open, and I don't have YouTube Red or Premium or whatever it is called now.
Good luck.
That's literally not possible in any other app that I know of.
Yeah, certain apps. I mean, I think YouTube intentionally stops you sometimes, but I mean, if it's letting you do it, great. Yeah, but so like
Just thought that was
First
interesting.
Cup,
Continue.
3 out of 4 tracks I actually really like, and Mushroom Gorge is it's okay. Anyway, yeah, that's enough talking about the DLC. I mean, I feel like we kind of covered everything pretty well there, and I basically just tore apart.
Seems like the quality is getting better. We'll have to see how the quality in Wave 3 is, if it's even better or at least as good.
Yeah, let's see what people are saying
Hopefully
in the
not
chat.
worse.
Let's see if anyone hates me now because I just made fun of New York Minute forever.
Bunch of native New Yorkers over here.
I'm sorry,
yelling.
Rel. I'm sorry. I just don't like New York Minute. I just don't. I don't. Okay. I don't hate it. I'll play
Andres
through it.
hates New Yorkers, confirmed.
I lived in New York for a little while, just for the record. But I also
I've been
left.
in New York once for a
Yeah.
week. Not in the city though. Not even close.
Yeah. Let's just jump into the Pokemon discussion. We'll take a couple questions and we'll call it a night. So we got that Pokemon Presents. Solid trailer. I mean, basically there's a trailer. There's nothing really else there that kind of
It's like the
I cared
Pokemon
about.
Cafe remix again, I think.
Yeah, nothing that I really
Again.
nothing. I mean, it was all
I
updates
just
on
skipped
current
through
stuff.
everything. I didn't watch anything else. I was like, and
too.
I don't care about that,
Skip
and I
this.
don't care about that,
I did the
and I
same
don't care about that.
I skipped through most of it, but the Scarlet and Violet. Like I made sure to see what it was. I was like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then I liked some of the website updates. I'm a little concerned for how they're gonna. First off, what they're doing for like the gimmick was kind of like what I was thinking and hoping they were gonna do. Like it's a very flexible gimmick. The crystallization or is that like terrorization?
Love how it looks.
Visually, it's stunning. Yeah, so that part I love. I love how it's flexible because it can be on any Pokemon, and
Right.
every Pokemon can be a different. You can find Pokemon there of a different type, so it offers a lot more reason to explore and find different Terra types, and that can give you a lot of different battle strategies. Like it offers a lot more variety there. So I think that's very cool. I think that definitely adds another layer to the mechanics. And it's something.
I love how they
it's
actually
fair,
simulate
seemingly.
the caustics of light shining through the glass, and like because it's like this very geometrically dense, like I don't know, it's not smooth, right? So there's a lot of ways the light bounces through the glass, and then you see like all these like little pinpricks of light, all these like caustics. Obviously they're fake, but the fact that they actually like went and made them look like they actually have caustics, and it looks like really beautiful the way the light looks like it's going through the glass and like shining on the ground. It's very colorful and pretty. And the material they used for the crystal when the Pokemon transformed just looked great. Like it looks super nice.
Yeah. I do think it's pretty. Like I'm right there with you, and I like the flexibility of it. I'm seeing here that Divine Zenith is saying that the clown looks kind of goofy. I mean, it looks cool and kind of. Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
I do kind of think that they could have done. Well, maybe not. There's just so many Pokemon, but it would be nice if they had more things that the Terra type, because they have like these head things on, depending on the type. Like Pikachu had balloons in that one when he turned into the flying type. But it seems like every flying type, every Terra type, so every Pokemon that is a Terra type of flying will have the same type of like thing on their head. They'll have the balloons, and like every Terra type will have the same thing. It would have been nicer if they had like customized them more, or like Nintendo Life was saying, like, what if they attached the balloons to Pikachu's back so it actually looked like it was lifting him up in a more sensible way, and they actually did something more unique for each one. But I understand why they didn't, because that would be... I mean, they already have to make new models for each and every single Pokemon because of this. So to also have to go in and think about crazy. How it makes the most sense.
It's for it would have been a lot of Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane when you think about that, right? Like, that's insane. Now, it's not going to be every Pokemon. Again, this is, you know...
Right, it's not going to be every Pokemon that's ever existed in the game, period.
It's going to be every Pokemon that's in the game, which is probably going to be like 400 or 500. It's still going to be a big chunk. Yeah, that's a lot there. We kind of just basically saw a lot of confirmations for what we thought. Like, I kind of had an idea. I sort of guessed the terrorization thing. Like, I wasn't sure. I did see a rumor that was speaking on crystals, so it might be related to that. But like, just like the idea of a mechanic related to maybe a typing change mid battle. Like, I've talked about that multiple times.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
You know what I predicted, or I'd hoped. The one thing I had hoped for is that they would announce something that hinted at the game having better story, and I feel like they did that. And in fact, the game has 3 different story campaigns.
Yeah. I'm very curious what the other 2 are. One is just a gym leader challenge, which we know.
Right.
What disappoints me is apparently they're not going to have level scaling.
Yes, I heard this. I don't understand.
I wonder how it'll feel in practice.
Right.
You know, so we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty disappointed about the lack of level scaling. But again, we'll see how it goes. Maybe there's a reason behind that. It's a hit for me. It hits my hype a little bit, just being fully real with you guys. Like,
it's a big miss.
But again, we won't, until we actually play the game, we don't know how it'll actually sort of come together, right? And we don't know what those other 2 campaign styles are. And they're really sort of arguing that it's kind of, you play, not arguing, they're marketing this game as a game where you create your own adventure, right? Like, you customize it how you choose. You know, you can do it all in different orders. So there might be these 3 different types of campaigns that you can do different chunks at different times at different paces, and you can play co-op with your friends at all times. Like, there's definitely a lot of cool elements to this Pokemon game. Like, I like all of that. I think the terrorization is actually pretty neat. When I break it down in all that way, and how open it is, and how it seems to be kind of like an evolution of the Arceus mechanics, but still like traditional Pokemon fit in there.
I would say
properly.
This is the first Pokemon game I actually thought, like, on the Switch, is the first Pokemon game I actually thought looked good. It isn't as technically advanced as something like Xenoblade 3.
No.
But honestly, I'd say it's probably more technically advanced than, in some ways, than, say, like, Breath of the Wild. To be honest, I think it's still simple, but it has a lot of very nice lighting. It actually looks good from a distance, I will say. Like, the detail from a distance, I love the way they render, like, distant cliff sides and stuff, because they have this texture that they use at a distance that doesn't look tiled and annoying, but it also looks like really detailed and sharp, in a way that Breath of the Wild doesn't, and a lot of games don't. Like, they actually arted the assets specifically in a way where it will look nice at a distance and up close, which is a big thing. Like, Arceus does not look like that. Like, Arceus looks very blurry and low poly and barely rendered at a distance, in a way that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet actually looks really nice and clean and sharp at a distance. Even though I will say the resolution of the game in general is really low, and some of the textures don't look super great up close, but it does have grass that's actually extremely similar to Breath of the Wild type grass. It's actually rendering like individual blades, and they're very clean, and they move in the wind, and that part looks so good. I think this game is actually really close to being a game that fully utilizes the potential of the Switch. It's getting there. There's still a lot of things I think they could do better, but it's a game that's actually like acceptable quality on Switch. I'm not looking at the game and being like, God, Pokemon Company, what are you doing? Why are you not giving Game Freak any budget? Why is this game the most butt-ugly game I've seen in this entire, like, on Switch? I don't understand.
Yeah. Right now on the Pokemon website, just looking at some screenshots, something that we theorized, by the way, and then they confirmed, the legendaries you can ride. But it's not just on foot or on wheel, sort of. It's land, air, and sea. And climb. Apparently they can climb too, which is cool.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna get Pokemon Violet, specifically because in Scarlet, your creature... Yes! The creature doesn't use your dang wheels in Scarlet for some reason, even though he has wheels too. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because he's supposed to look... I feel like he's supposed to look like this more like... motorcycle. Like Violet's is like this very futuristic motorcycle with like jet engines and stuff on it. I feel like they could have done more like a motor, kind of like diesel vibe motorcycle with the Scarlet one, and they didn't. They just decided to make him run like a weirdo.
So I'm just kind of reading through the website right now. They have obviously they have different forms, but what's interesting here. So here it says it seems Koraidon and Miraidon have even more forms than we've already discovered. These Pokemon are capable of changing their forms to better suit what they're doing or what terrain they are traveling over. So, there's a couple questions I have here, right? Like one, obviously, I can see how they have different forms because, I mean, there's running forms, there's driving forms, there's swimming forms, there's flying forms, which is all cool. But they're also they literally just told us there's other forms we haven't discovered yet. And it kind of ties into my question of when we get these Pokemon, because I think the implication here is that we're going to get them fairly early on. Because, I mean...
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
they're your partner for the campaign.
Right, like, they help you explore everything.
I think you probably get them, like, pretty... Like, within the first couple hours, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, because considering how open the game is, right? Like, I guess the idea is you can kind of choose what you want to do, and do it in an open structure. You must obtain these Pokemon pretty open on because they give you that that method of kind of exploring everything.
I am thinking that those different forms they can take, like flying and stuff, I don't think they'll be available right away. I'm not sure, but I would guess that those are something you have to unlock to make exploration easier, like you unlock a new form.
I think you're probably right, because remember in Legends Arceus how we saw those same mechanics, being able to climb and fly and swim.
Right.
And it took time to get to them. You didn't just get them all right from the get-go. So you could be right on that. There may be a build-up there. And as you progress in the game, obviously in different directions, but like there's, I guess, like an overall like progress meter or whatever it is. It may just be, you know what I mean? Like there's some measure of progress.
You still have the gyms to measure your progress, so...
Sure, right? And then, yeah, like, you're still... It's 6 versus 8, right? At a certain point, you unlock more modes, and it may be the case that after a certain point, you unlock a combat mode. Like, it doesn't seem like... I don't think you'll be able to use them in combat early on.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
But you will be able to use them for transportation early on. It's kind of weird, right? Because like we're used to getting legendary Pokemon, so they're meant for late into the game, right? Like, so I do wonder.
It was so weird when they announced the legendaries, and then you can just ride them, and I was like, wait,
like
what?
I thought. I did think that we would be able to ride them, but I also wasn't sure how early this would be available. And the way they're branding and marketing it, though, it feels like it's kind of like a core mechanic of the game that we get early on. But maybe we don't get it early on, right? Like, it's hard to say. I think what it is that we do unlock different modes.
They describe them as
throughout the game.
as like your companion on your journey or something like that.
Right, they do.
Like not something like something that's there the entire part of your journey, not
During your
something you
adventure,
unlock
you will
midway.
meet a legendary Pokemon, either Koraidon or Miraidon, and it will join you on your journey. Okay. Ride your legendary Pokemon to traverse the expansive Paldea region. We now know the name of the region. And explore every nook and cranny together. Sprint through plains and deserts, move across water, scale cliffs, cross hills, glide off peaks. Enjoy. It's basically all the mechanics we saw in Legends Arceus, or actually Breath of the Wild, and then just put it all into one. Meet a variety of people and Pokemon alongside your legendary Pokemon. Seek out the mysteries that await you in Paldea. I mean, the way it's being phrased, we don't know when they join you on your journey, but the way they're showing it off, they're clearly an integral part to your journey. So
yeah,
they gotta be there for like
often.
at least half the game, right? Like,
I mean, this is essentially like the glider of the game, and you get the glider really early on.
The glider early on, though. Sprinting build drive mode. Traveling through Paldea on foot can be quite the hassle. If you learn how to ride sprinting build Koraidon or drive mode Raidon, you'll be able to traverse the expansive Paldea region more freely and at full speed. So you notice how they make it seem optional?
Yeah.
If you learn, so that's something to consider. Like, that may not be something you get early on. Sprinting build Koraidon, it may look like a motorcycle, but it uses its powerful legs to run on all fours. So they're self-aware of the travesty of justice this is, right?
Why would you do this? It's
Miraidon accelerates by generating energy in its tail and throat, which transforms into wheel-like rings. I guess
Violet. I'm sorry. You can have Scarlet. Blue's my favorite color. Red's your favorite, so works out. But
yeah, I'm still gonna get Koraidon, but I do think this is a hit for me. I'm not gonna lie, it's a hit. Like, why couldn't they just have the wheels spin? They could have made it like some sort of weird, like, grinding attack or something. I don't know.
He could have been, like, they could have had his like this deep rumbly growl and like a motorcycle engine.
Oh, that's super cool.
Like, what the heck were they thinking?
Maybe they'll still do that, even though.
Yeah, they might still do that part.
It just looks so weird. Maybe they just thought it would be weirder if it spun. They probably thought that they would just look even weirder if it spun. On your adventure, you'll be able to jump into rivers, lakes, and vibrant oceans to approach the Pokemon that live there, or cross parallel waters in the snap by riding, swimming, building Koraidon, or aquatic mode Miraidon. Okay. Swimming build. Koraidon floats by making its throat into a. Okay, it looks bigger here because it turns its wheel into a flotation device. Okay, that's cool. It's kind of like like a gas sack or something. It propels itself by spreading a membrane between its toes and paddling through water. Okay.
Gotta grease them toes.
We're gonna propel itself. Okay, yeah, I get that. I like how they open up wings. That's neat. Right, I don't think there's anything else new here, but it's cool stuff to see, right? Like, I like that that's there. We did predict it. It wasn't like a hard prediction. No. I remember a few people pointing out that like ride is like in their names. Koraidon, Miraidon.
No.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got a good look at the map. Look at that map, bro. That's a nice map. It's just a map. I mean, it's an open world map though, so that's what's interesting here.
It's a nice map, yes.
We can see multiple cities. There's a town here. Maybe a town here.
I do love the style of the art they use for this map. It's extremely gorgeous.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on over here.
This is such an interesting. So it seems like everything revolves in a circle around this peak with this.
Brandon, you know what I think we're looking at here?
Inside.
I'm fairly certain this is Ionios.
I don't know who that is.
Ionios?
Ionios?
The map in Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh. Yes.
Also, by the way, there's the post-game content is in this top right corner. It's the only part of the map. It's the only part of the map that has land covered by clouds. Just think about that. Like,
connects back to land.
Like, why? Right? Like, if
because there's an island other than that part that seems to connect to a bigger landmass.
Yeah, I do not think we're gonna play Kalos in this game. So, no. I've given up on that happening. This is like a huge map, right? Like there's probably a lot going on here.
Yeah, it looks big.
But like I was saying, there's a lot of towns. 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's got to be at least 8,
9, 10, maybe. There's definitely some that maybe not be full towns, but there's like buildings. That's a town.
Yeah.
That's a town. There may be a village somewhere around.
I already
here.
know where the water, 100% the water gem's on the right side.
I think the water gem
Middle
is
right.
probably right here. On this desert mountain. And not where there's a Pokeball in the water. To the right, like you said. Yeah. It's a cool looking map. Definitely curious about the middle. I wonder if this is like where you see how there's this part right here, this like town area. I wonder if this is the like Pokemon League, although maybe it would be this right here.
I think it would be the big city underneath, I'd assume.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if this is where we start the game, like right here, because seems like where the main city is. They show off in the trailer. I don't know. Tough to say, but there is like a moat, which is interesting. It's a good looking map. Like I'm kind of excited to explore this. The more I look at the map, like this is a fun looking world.
I'm actually
the more I look at this, the more excited I'm getting for the game now.
To be honest, I've never been excited for a Pokemon game. Like even Sword and Shield, I was like, there's wild areas, but they don't look that interesting. Like there's never been a Pokemon game where I actually really wanted to play it. This one, I'm like, oh, I really want to play this game.
Man, why couldn't they have? Why? I wonder why they screw up the scaling though. Like why? They had it.
I don't.
Please
know.
change your mind.
It doesn't bother me as much because there's 2 other like campaigns.
We have no idea what those
that's
are.
Where the difficulty lies. Because I assume that they want you to beat the gyms first, and the other 2 campaigns are like for afterwards.
Well,
to have like with more challenging Pokemon.
I think they're all
things.
separate. Now I bet you once you complete all 3, it'll unlock like some sort of post game or some sort of end game event.
I don't know, I just feel like those are I feel like the other 2 stories are supposed to be way more in depth and more challenging because they don't. Also,
Brandon,
they don't
am I gonna
mention
train you to be a good
at all.
Pokemon trainer? Like, are we gonna adventure throughout Paldea together, and I'm gonna teach you how to battle, and you're gonna teach me how to be a good person?
Teach you how to be a good person.
I don't know. What else would you teach me?
I don't know.
How to shut up.
I could. Yeah. Sure.
Maybe. This is interesting. So it looks like Sunflora, but is it just like a statue of Sunflora, or is there actually Sunflora? Like it doesn't look alive, right?
Oh yeah. See what you mean. Yeah.
Also, this is a straight up city. That's cool. And it's definitely not the main city. It's just like another city. It almost looks like you can gamble here, just based off like the Meowth and the lights. Yeah. It's giving me
the game looks good. I think the game looks good. It looks clean. The textures look good enough. Like they're not the highest resolution I've ever seen, but they're not trash like in Arceus.
Anyways, I actually thought Arceus was kind of pleasant, even though there's clearly some basic stuff in there. This looks better than that. So, Yeah. Your adventure companion, the Rotom Phone, a must-have for traveling the Paldea region. I don't care. This time the Pokédex will be low on the Rotom Phone as an app. This is basically an Arceus. Okay, whatever. Your map will also be on an app on your Rotom Phone. You'll be able to see the map of the entire Paldea region in the map app, which will naturally show your current location. You'll see all kinds of information like nearby towns, Pokemon centers, and wild Pokemon. Also, Pokemon centers are basically like gas stations. That theory proved to be true, which is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the map. Interesting, man. Like from this map here, it makes it seem like things are really big. Like you look at this, right?
Pretty big, yeah.
And I wonder if we can find this on the bigger map.
Hold on, I think that is the very south middle.
Like here?
Yes. I think it's somewhere down there.
There's like a beach to the right. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
And that's a very small part of the map, and it looks like a decently sized area in the game.
Yeah. Like it looks big.
I said the map's pretty big.
It's pretty big. And also
it's not gonna be as big as Breath of the Wild, I don't think, but it's big.
Yeah, I definitely doubt that. There's no way. But it's kind of cool to think about how they have like 3 campaigns sort of planned within the game. So I'm very curious, like how big this game really is going to be.
I think the biggest win graphically for this game is getting that Breath of the Wild style grass going. Like, it does actually like look pretty close to Breath of the Wild's grass.
I mean, some of these screenshots right here, I'm looking at, look pretty nice.
It looks detailed. Like, I love how the trees look. I love how the game's shaded. I think it looks a lot. Contrast. It looks very clean and not simple, but it's clean and detailed at the same time.
Excuse me, sorry.
Very polished.
Adventuring the vast Paldea region won't be a walk in the park. In order to battle Pokemon trainers and catch all Pokemon, you will need to rest your Pokemon and get Pokeballs to catch more Pokemon. So support trainers. There are many outdoor Pokemon centers scattered about Paldea training. Trainers can easily find centers from far away, light up at the night, and each of them has a Pokeball sign on the roof. Okay, yeah, I mean, like, we remember we did our initial analysis, and like, yeah, it was kind of like a beacon, you know? Yeah. It's just interesting how we've talked about a lot of games that are just inspired from Breath of the Wild, even like actual other Nintendo games. Let's see here. Okay, some individual exclusive Pokemon. Okay, great. I want to see the part that was speaking on the badges. See all news. Okay, features. Maybe it's under features. Oldest school in the Paldea region. Fight alongside your friends within a time limit in terror raid battles. Shine and glimmer like gems thanks to terrestrial Pokemon. The story unfolds the way you want it to. This sounds like it right here. Okay, weave 3 grand stories into your adventure as you meet Pokemon you've never seen and unique characters. These titles have the hallmark Pokemon story of going to gyms and aiming to become a champion, but there is no set path, so you can go to whichever gym you want the challenge in the order you desire. Furthermore, there are 2 other grand stories besides your pursuit of becoming a champion, and this is like a weird little graphics issue, and many tribulations await you in these stories as well. Please look forward to finding out what kind of stories there are. Furthermore, again, you can freely go back and forth between all 3 stories, allowing your adventure to develop in a way you want to. Some may want to reach the rank of champion and rush through the gyms, while others might want to adventure at their leisure, at times searching for Pokemon or meeting all sorts of people. Everybody can experience the game the way they want to. Being able to make your very own unique story is one of the hallmarks of Pokemon Scarlet Violet. There's nothing here that says that yet, but let's continue. The Paldea region has a league and a special class of pro-ranked trainers who have achieved the champion rank. These trainers have grown with their Pokemon to be able to dazzle audience with their skills in battle. There are facilities called Pokemon gyms in many towns, and the leaders of these gyms are awaiting the challenge of trainers like you and your friends. There is no set path to the gyms. You can purposely seek out a stronger gym leader, or you can simply stop by a gym leader that happens to be located in a town you came across in your journey. This time you get to plot your very own path along Victory Road. If you beat all the gyms and spread across the region, you'll be able to take a special test called the Champion Assessment. If you successfully pass the assessment, your strength will be acknowledged and you'll be given the champion rank, making you an object of admiration of other trainers. Polish your skills with many trainers and aim for the glorious champion rank. So what's interesting about this, it sounds a little different. Champion rank.
Right.
Listen to the first paragraph here. The Paldea
You're not the
region,
champion, you're just a champion.
You're in the champion rank. Paldea region has a league and a special class of pro-ranked Pokemon trainers who have achieved the champion rank. These trainers have grown with their Pokemon to be able to dazzle audiences with their skills in battle. So, and this is the wrinkle I was maybe suggesting there might be. Yes, it appears that the gyms will not be scalable, but there's more beyond than just the gyms. Getting the gyms, that just allows you to take the special test of the champion assessment, and then you enter the champion rank, but there are others in this game that have the champion rank. And I think that's something important that maybe a lot of people are missing here. That's a whole other element to this, right? So it may be the case that you can just cakewalk some gyms, which again is a gripe. But if there's something beyond the gym leaders, right? Like there's something beyond that, then it's like, okay, so now there's a champ. Like, so there's more layers to this than just gyms Elite Four. It's different,
right?
And how that's handled, that could change a lot. Because hypothetically, let's say, yeah, you can cakewalk half the gyms. You can build up your Pokemon to like level 60 and just steamroll all 8 gyms, get it done in 2 hours once you've leveled up doing other things throughout the entire time. And then you're like, oh, well, there I go. I just beat one of the main stories of the game. Easy. But at that point, you take the champion test, you pass it, then you unlock competing against other champion ranked trainers throughout the land. And there could be challenge there. There could be something interesting there. There could be another dynamic there that you didn't have access to beforehand. But ultimately, it comes down to how they handle that. So there's still some hope here. It's not as bad as some people are making it out to be. Sometimes you actually got to read. But, cool stuff there. I'm a fan of this Pokemon.
I still think it would have been better if they just scaled the gyms as well.
I agree.
We'll see. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, we'll see how it works, for sure. Anyway, after looking at these details more closely, I do feel like, the game's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped for it.
Also, raid battles are back, which is nice to see. I felt like they needed to have something like raid battles, because if you're gonna have adventures with your friends, you need something to do something together beyond just running around. So you can still battle together in raid battles. And based off the way the mechanic is working, how there can be every Pokemon could have any of the 18 types as a Terra type. There's all sorts of Pokemon you can collect now, and a lot of these can be in raid battles. So there's a lot of reason to be kind of doing raid battles with your friends, running around exploring together, so that's cool. Oh, some other interesting mechanics here. There are 3 kinds. Expand your options to co-op play by cheering. There are 3 kinds of cheers you can use. They will benefit all allied Pokemon: attack, special attack, defense, and healing. Anybody can use the cheers. Blah blah blah. I don't care. Okay. All right. Cool stuff. You'll be able to attempt Terra raid battles by touching shining crystals. The color of these crystals correspond to the Terra type of the Terra Pokemon you'll encounter. They almost look like gemstones. Additionally, a sparkling pillar of light will be shooting into the sky above any of these crystals, making them easy to spot at a distance. So you see the whole beacon thing. Like, it's an open world, so just have giant beacons of different things. So you're like, oh, there I go. I'll go find that. I can see it from far away.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, this is cool stuff here. I'm looking forward to the game.
I'm happy with Game Freak's progress over the years. It takes them a long time, but eventually they have taken all the different little improvements that they've made over the years and then also made a huge leap for this game. Because, we had, the wild areas and Sword and Shield's kind of actually it goes before that. The first Pokemon game we got on Switch, we got Pokemon Let's Go, and we got Pokemon in the overworld and following Pokemon. That was the big thing. And of course the first HD Pokemon. But then we got wild areas with Sword and Shield, and then we got almost open world with Arceus, and we're seeing all of those elements in one game, but also they've taken the tech and actually made it decent as well. And so it's nice. It looks like Pokemon Company's actually coming out with something I can believe. This is a Switch game. They put effort into this. This might not be the best, most technically impressive Switch game ever, but it's also one. It's also fairly technically impressive at the same time. It's not a 10 out of 10, but it's an 8 out of 10. It's good. It is definitely a big stride.
Yeah,
it's a quantum leap over what they did with Sword and Shield.
When you compare it to what we had before, there's a lot of cool things that have improved upon, to your point, Brandon. I'm excited to have that open exploration. I like that there's gonna be 3 different types of campaigns. This whole champion rank element to the gym challenge kind of alleviates my concern somewhat of the non-scaling gyms. Right. Still a miss. I agree on that. But we'll see how it pans out in the actual game, right? Because it might be one of those things where the gyms aren't really intended to be that significant, and it might be more heavily centric on the champion rank stuff, or maybe the gym section is just 1/6 of the core things you're supposed to do. So the gym path, the gyms and the Elite Four is just the first half, and the champion rank stuff is the other half, So then that whole scalable thing, maybe throw that out the window to some extent. And there's the two other main campaign things we have no idea what they're about. Maybe one's about collecting Pokemon, or is collecting Pokemon an entirely separate thing? You know?
Right. You know something else about the gyms? Something I just thought of. We have no idea what the weakest gym is going to be and what the strongest gym is going to be. The gyms in general might just be stronger than we're thinking, and it may just be that they want like people to go for, if you're having a hard time, because gyms might actually be tough this time around, and if you're having a hard time, you need to go to like an easier gym, and that's why they're not scalable, because they're actually like can be really challenging gyms.
Well, I mean, I guess the idea behind scaling is that some gyms, like every gym is scaled down to your level.
Right.
So
but then I think the issue with scaling in a way could be that they find that scaling it messes with the way they want the game to be balanced, because then the game's kind of always changing itself to be harder no matter how much stronger you get.
Well, maybe
they may have wanted
a limit
to add a certain way to make it way harder for you if you wanted.
So
I think
when
it's
I
kind of
thought
like
of
Breath of the
scaling,
Wild. Well, let me finish my thought.
No.
The way I thought about it is like it's kind of like the Breath of the Wild idea where you can go beat Ganon at any time, and it'd be hard as balls, but you can do that, or you can go and fight any of the divine beasts. And to be fair, there are some of the divine beasts that are straight up way harder than other ones in the bosses and in the types of puzzles they are, and they don't scale at all.
And I mean, I guess to your point, I didn't really have an issue with the difficulty curve of the divine beasts. That didn't bother me so much. I mean, Pokemon is different though, right? Because it's like straight up levels, you know. There's strategy to it, but I don't know. Like it's just kind of like thinking on how it was in previous games. Do I really trust them to make those battles engaging? In truth, I don't.
No, I don't either.
So I mean, I'm
just saying that there are ways that they could do it to make it actually, maybe not how everybody wants it to be, but it could be still good, and that might just be how their vision is.
Sure. Yeah, and also, you know, to their point, you can play the game at your own pace. So if you want to challenge the gyms when you feel that they will be difficult for you, you have that option. So, you know, maybe from their perspective is the best of both worlds. And again, we have to kind of see it in practice, right?
If you want even scaling, you can figure out what the recommended order is and fight the gyms in order.
Maybe so, right? Like, yeah. So there's other perspective there to consider.
I'm
for
not
sure.
saying it's the way they should have done it. I'm just saying it might be an okay way to do it.
The way I had thought about it though was that they could have structured the game in a way where every time you get a badge, right, you enter a new tier. So if you have 0 badges, whatever, regardless of which gym you pick, you're going to be fighting Pokemon around level 10. You know, you have badge 2, level 15, 18. 3, and so on, right? There's like kind of a gap there. And then as you raise up levels, some Pokemon evolve. Maybe they use a slightly different team depending on which badge you use, which means it sort of encourages you to play the game differently the second time around if you do a new game plus or something, right? I mean, it's Pokemon, so there's not really new game plus, because then you would lose your entire collection. Well, there's different ways they can handle that, but anyway, you get my point though. Like, they could have created more variety with your adventure by doing that. Now, they're still going for variety, though. You still do things out of order, so you can kind of progress the game in a slightly different way. If you do choose to, you can do it differently your second time around. Like, so there still is that, but I would have liked to have seen like a straight up different gym leader team each time. But I guess that's also more to plan and prepare for, which is more work. But I mean, all Pokemon exist, so how much more extra work is it really?
Yeah, I think that would have been doable. I don't know why they didn't. But we have yet to see what their actual vision is for it, so I'm not gonna judge them too badly yet.
Yeah. But I think we're pretty much near the end of the discussion. Nintendo quality, I don't know if you're here yet. But we will be getting more new tracks other than Sky High Sunday and Mario Kart Deluxe. I believe wholeheartedly. I don't think that was the last one.
They're not gonna stop making new tracks for Tour, and they're
might as well
put them in here as well. So
I'll say that supposedly there was a data mine that suggested that there was gonna be other new tracks. We don't know what they are, but yeah, there's gonna be other new tracks apparently. So, I believe it.
I wouldn't be shocked if we got one new track. Not every single pack, but almost every single pack, like a brand new track.
That's kind of my expectation at this point. I think because what was it? The Ninja place in Wave 1 was supposed to be kind of a new track too. Ninja Hideaway. I think it came out at the same time. Tour
exclusive.
They came out around the same time or something, because it's not considered a Tour exclusive within Mario. Like, it's not branded as a Tour track.
Oh, is it not?
No, it's not.
I thought Ninja Hideaway already existed before.
I think it did. It did. When did it release on Tour? We're ending the podcast soon, but I don't know if you realize, Brandon, we've been on for 3 hours.
Dang, pretty good.
Yeah. We just had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there was a lot.
And to be honest, we could probably
touched on our Xenoblade thoughts again. We could have talked about that for another hour.
We could have. We're probably gonna have a spoiler discussion soon.
Yeah.
Probably in a couple weeks. We're gonna wait till we actually.
I have
get to
yet
the story.
to get enough into the game for the story to really hook me. I'm interested in certain details, but I'm not man, I gotta keep playing so I can keep playing the story because I'm on a really interesting part of the game right now. There's a lot. They're still building up a lot of different things. The story has yet to hit its stride.
Well, I've been kind of hooked to the story from the beginning, so I just don't feel the same way. But
I just don't understand what the hook's supposed to be. They set up all this stuff and then they kind of just stop setting up. I feel like they don't set up it enough for me to know what the end goal even really is. I know we're supposed to be getting to Sword March. That's in the trailer. They tell you that's the goal. What are we gonna do there? Why are we going there? No idea. How is this going to help us? No idea. I know there's a city, but
I'm excited about because there's this mystery, right? It's kind of go there to find out something that could help you.
There's too much mystery to where I have literally no clue what's happening, so I have no idea where the story's going to go. I guess
for me, I just know the story's going to be good, so I just want to continue going to see what else is going on.
I have that. It's just I'm not in the first game, I immediately got hooked because there's a certain death that happens really on, and it's way more impactful than the death that happens in 3, and I believe there's a death that happens in 2 as well.
There's some... I implore you to continue, because there's some crazy stuff.
No, I'm not saying it's not going to get good. I'm just saying, right at this moment, I'm not 10 out of 10 hyped for the story. I'm more 6 or 7. Okay. I'm very much intrigued, but I have yet to hit the part of the story where I'm constantly thinking about it 24/7.
I'm on a different point. I'm also further into the story, so there's that.
You're 15 hours out of me.
Yeah, but I think Chapter 2, the desert stuff, I did that. That was a big moment. But there are some
really good moments. It's just not. There are also some really slow story bits in between.
There's a lot of setup.
It takes a while to get to
there is a lot of setup.
Big part.
I got you there. I'm just gonna check with a couple things in the chat and call it a night here. Felipe E, in my opinion, there's no point in beating gyms in any order for difficulty scale to the player. I see what you're saying. And as Brandon sort of was kind of talking about it too, kind of going at it from a different angle. I see what you're saying. It's if every gym just kind of feels like the same level, like if it kind of stays at your level, then maybe there's not really like that kind of crazy challenge. I kind of see what you're saying with that, but you know, that all comes down to difficulty curve. But the tricky part about difficulty curve is that if it's not a linear game, and if you, I mean, even if when it's a linear game, if you have the choice to stay back and sort of continue to level yourself up, you can over level yourself, you know?
You can always grind.
Yeah, I think what I wish the gyms had more of, or just battles in general, I wish the AI was just a bit more advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in general the AI doesn't ever really do the advanced moves. Like playing the combat in versus like AI versus how I watch people play like in leagues or like against people, so different.
It's very different.
Completely
like,
different.
If you watch a competitive trainer battle, like you're gonna see a lot of switching. You might see a computer switch once or twice. Like twice is like a huge anomaly. You see them switch once, like, oh man, we got a smart AI here, and they switch it into a Pokemon that's even worse. Like it's just like the switch almost seems like inconsequential. Like they basically just give you a free turn to attack.
I would say the AI in Pokemon, from what I've played, and obviously I'm not big into enough the combat to really talk about it, but they don't seem that smart, or that they use all the mechanics that they could, like ever.
No, they don't. I mean, also, Pokemon as a competitive series gets pretty deep, so I can't really expect them to do crazy stuff. But like, for example, it would be neat if like by the time you get to the Elite Four, the Pokemon League, if you have a fire Pokemon out, switch to a water type. Don't leave your grass one in there. Like, you know, like stuff like that. At least do it a few times. I mean, I'm not saying you have to continually switch forever, right? But like, do something to like hurt the momentum of the actual player. Like, do some things that throw them off. Don't just take it. So you know, like if I don't want it to be like, I wish the difficulty would spike in a way in a Pokemon game where it came down more. It wasn't just about, oh, okay, I'm just gonna make sure to kill grass types with fire moves, kill rock types with water types, and as long as I do that, I win. Like, I want it to be, oh man, I gotta actually think of a little bit of a strategy here. Like, I gotta plan when I should use my terrorization, right? Or I shouldn't let them set up on me. Like, maybe a computer should try to set up for a sweep, and if the trainer does not prepare themselves or does not counter quick enough, guess what? They lose. Like, do that. That would be way better.
AI is just, I like Xenoblade because you use all of your mechanics and your teammates, especially in 3, all do as well. The AI is built so smartly. They all, you hit break, they're like, got you with the topple, bro. And then the other guy's like, got you with the daze, bro. Or the launch. And the spike. And they're just like, they're on top of it. And even the enemy, they're on top of it with all their moves and their strategies as well. And it makes the combat feel so great because you really have to use all of your different mechanics and correlate with your team members, even your AI team members, and it's just fun. And I feel like Pokemon, you don't really have to do that, and you don't really have to think about your strategy nearly as much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you there. I've been playing Xenoblade and thinking, man, like, in Xenoblade, there is no multiplayer, right? Like, they have a complex battle system, and there's no multiplayer. You play against the computers. In contrast with Pokemon, there's a complex battle system in Pokemon, too. But the computer sucks. Like, the battle system you don't really use at all. Like, you scratch the bare minimum surface of the battle system playing the main game. If you actually want to use any of the actual true mechanics of the battle system in Pokemon, you have to play competitively. You have to go online and play other players.
Playing
and, like,
Pokemon against AI is like playing Xenoblade the first 5 to 7 hours in the game before you have unlocked like anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, press arts, you're gonna win. Even if you don't press
Yeah.
arts, you'll probably still win. So, yeah, there's clearly a difference there. But yeah, we're gonna call it a night here. I'm just gonna check in with the chat real quick. August Holt, hello there, welcome. Yes, Jamal, we're still live. There's just a lot of things to talk about, and to Brandon's point, like, there's still so much we could cover. Like, we just went on another Xenoblade tangent. Like, we're really, there's a lot of things we could go into. I know there's more Pokemon stuff we could have gone into. There's just, we're already going for over 3 hours, and I have to get up early, so you know. Yeah, and it's kind of like a slow night right now, so you know. I hear you, Felipe. Felipe said, I think both ways of making gyms in a open world game, Pokemon game, aren't perfect because the battle system is pure math. But maybe if the gym leaders act smarter or dumber according to your level, it could work, right? Like, I would love it if they were to have AI. It's what we just talked about. So, you know, hopefully, but it's one of those things where I don't expect Pokemon to do it because they don't really do that. But if they did it, it would be amazing. Yeah. I do know, like, at the end of Pokemon games, like the Battle Tower, they start to employ some of the more advanced strategies. The AI might do a couple switches. It's still not smart AI. It's just kind of more like the team compositions are set up to use those the more advanced strategies, but the AI itself isn't like dastardly good or anything like that.
At the end of the game,
at
the end of the day, the game is still designed for children. So.
Yep.
Specifically.
Yep. You're right. But let's see here. Charles Shadell. This is the last thing I'm gonna read, and I'll call it a night. By the way, Digimon Cyber Sleuth had this problem too in the end. If you had vaccine against the Digimon that were weak to vaccine, it was also a direct win. Hence why I didn't think it was that good. At least the Monster Hunter Stories 2, you need to get hints from the monster and get a hint to know how to attack. At least for some stressful turns where you are unsure what to do. I play Monster Hunter Stories, and there were fights I lost. That game is harder than a Pokemon game. Yeah, definitely.
I thought I played either of that or Digimon.
Yeah, I haven't played Digimon, but Monster Hunter Stories is kind of... I didn't finish it, but it was pretty fun for what I played. Anyways, guys, that's all for now. Leave a like if you appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will continue to try and make content. Like I did mention, I had a social media post, Saturday, where I was kind of talking about how things have been slow. Things are slow, right? Streams have not been performing that well. Videos have not been performing that well. I haven't been making that much content. I've just been busy. And it's just been kind of hard to come up with ideas and put them together because I've just had so much going on. So I guess it's kind of like a level of burnout where, because I have so much work to do, it's hard for me creatively to kind of like take that time, relax, come up with a cool video idea, and then put it out there for you guys and make it good, right? Like I could talk about the same stuff every day, but I'm not going to talk about the same stuff every day and then just use the same trailers over and like I want there to be some variety, some actual additional quality, some creativity to what I do. And it's extra work, right? Like, you know, so it's been challenging, but I am trying to make my process more efficient. I am trying to, I guess, manage time a little bit better and position things so I can plan things better. Because I've mentioned, like, this is like supposed to be like a temporary room for me, but it looks like I'm gonna be here a little bit longer than expected. So, you know, I redid the room. I got my stuff down from PA when I moved. I took stuff out of boxes.
Yeah.
And I finally fixed the soundproofing in this room. I'm
also staying in the room I'm staying in longer than I thought.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm like debating, should I move
out? Both
staying
with family.
Like I'm debating right now if I'm gonna start renting, but housing has gone up. I live in Miami, so it's very expensive.
Housing is so bad.
So do I start renting a place, or do I save for a few months and maybe position myself to buy a house? So, you know, I just got a lot of things going on, but we're not done. We're not done, guys.
Down but never out.
Good stuff. Good stuff is coming. So stay tuned. But we'll see you later. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.